Great. I hate using the gavel, but. Good evening, everybody. Today is August 21st, 2025. Welcome to the Southport Planning meeting. Got quite the extensive agenda tonight, so if you're watching from home, go grab your favorite beverage, sit down, and we'll get rolling here. So tonight, we have two members that are remote. So we have a quorum. Ed, who is our alternate member, will have participation in our meeting. The only difference with Ed is that Ed will not be able to vote. He will act like any other member, has the full responsibility, these duties, everything else just is unable to vote.
I don't have an Ed.
You don't have what?
I don't have Ed.
Ed's right here.
Oh, not Ed, I'm sorry. Doug, I don't have Doug. I have Doug yet,
Yeah, Doug?
not yet.
Here.
Well, two.
Yeah. I'm gonna get Doug, go ahead.
I'm gonna keep rolling.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a cell phone, which everybody does, please turn them off. If you don't turn them off and your phone rings, you buy us ice cream tonight. So, maybe hold it to that. Check, make sure we're good. So ethics statement, if any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Anybody have any conflicts? None? Good, let's roll. For those that can stand, please stand to the invocation and pledge allegiance. Let us take a moment to center ourselves. As we gather to serve our community of Southport, grant us clarity of thought, respect in our dialogue, and courage to choose what is just. Bless this board with patience, open minds, and steady hearts. Help us to listen with grace, speak with honesty, and act with fairness for the good of all. May our work be guided by fairness, compassion, and the common good. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those that are going to speak tonight, I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. And just as a reminder, if you haven't signed up and if you wanted to make comments about one of the agenda items tonight, please sign up now because all the agenda items we have are not public speaking sessions, not a public hearing, which is normally what you allow for that. So first up is the approval of the minutes. The July 17th planning board member, any changes, any comments by anybody? Do I have a motion to approve them?
Seconded.
Motion made, second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, the vote of the motion carried unanimously. Sorry, do we have audio also from the people on the phone? Remote?
We don't, I can give them a call though.
All right, we've got to find some way if they're voting, how they're voting. Otherwise, it's going to count it as an abstention.
Okay.
All right.
Um,
Great. Also, have approval of the agenda. What I'd like to do, because there's so many people here tonight, as well as presenters from the hotel, I'd like to entertain a motion to take the agenda out of order, doing new business first. That's the motion. Motion, do we have a second? Motion made and second. Any further discussion? Here or none. So they basically should take the new business first, then we'll roll into everything else. So motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Here or none? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So vote motion carries. Do I have a motion then to approve the agenda, which will be to take new business first, then going into old business after public comment. So do I have a motion on approving the agenda? Each eye. Motion been made. Do I have a second? Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Here and none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So voted. Motion carries. So first up is public comment. Do I have a motion to open public comment?
motion to open public comment.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Here and none. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Clerk, who's first up tonight?
Oh, we have Miss Shirley Sullivan.
Okay, come on down. Will the audio pick her up without any problem?
It should.
Okay.
It should. I have no idea. I really have no idea.
Shirley Sullivan, 5002 Seaward Court, in Riverview. Chair Ashley, planning board members, I'm the department director, Meehan, and my peers, the audience. I am concerned for the safety of my family, friends, neighbors, and all who use J. Swain Boulevard. My concerns about the hotel on the agenda tonight are safety, traffic, and crime. As noted, this major site is in the highway commercial zone, and by right, the owner of the property may develop according to the UDOs for highway commercial. There were 3 variances approved by the Board of Adjustment. I was wondering, how one of them does a height variance set a precedence for all of Southport? Zoned highway commercial, the UDO states enters and exits the highway. And that is one of the variances. And another variance is height, and the other one is the frontage square feet. And part of that states that it would be a hardship that would result from strict application of the ordinance, not to the development in Rivercrest. J. Swain is a 4-lane boulevard, currently not properly marked for turn lanes. It's not marked, there are sight lane issues. And they closed the crossing from 211 into the Wendy's and Bojangles. I don't remember the name of that street. Usually might, so that track was now also being routed to J. Swain. Well, I accept the widening to open the tag project, and I am more aware of all drivers in Brunswick County. But many of them do not practice defensive driving. Drivers can constantly run red lights at J. Swain and 211, among other places. On J. Swain, drivers turn left from the middle lane, sometimes without even braking or signaling. Some drivers on J. Swain appear lost and stop. Because of the variance for ingress and egress location, further safety measures should be addressed to avoid further issues for those with J. Swain on Riverview. Would hope they finally start using cameras, traffic cameras, control the area, mark the lines correctly, put in correct signage for people turning into the area. It is common knowledge that hotels consistently bring in crime, so that's a concern. And also in the past, I have learned that NCDOT has indicated they can't find a definition of what a double yellow line is. But the same in every state, you can't cross it. But people do now, and they remove the phones and pull in. But it would be safer for people to enter for the hotel on J. Swain as opposed to crossing 211. I understand. But people up and down 211 continue to cross double yellows. So many infractions. We've been patient with the 211 widening. You know, we go right or left. That's what we face. That's what we look at every day. I might leave the neighborhood 3 times a day. But this major site is a major issue regarding public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Mel Miller.
Oh, sorry, I just signed in. I didn't know if you probably.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she'll speak after, if there's any questions from the board.
Is that the same for you, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Any emails at all?
I have not.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion that we close public comment. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion been made, second. Any further discussion? Here none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, supported, motion carried unanimously. Okay, so let's jump into new business, which is major site plan 25-01 Home Suites, be presented by Wendell. So just as background on the Article 2, Section B of the UDO, page 216, for those that are watching at home and want to pull it up on the website. Major site plan is required for a residential development of 4 or more dwelling units on a lot. Non-residential development whereby 10,000 square feet or more of impervious surfaces are proposed. All other development not subject to minor site plan approval. Major site plan applicants can receive one of the following by the planning board: approval with conditions, or denial. Major site plans do not go to the Board of Aldermen for approval, such as all the things that we're doing tonight. They would go to the Board of Aldermen for approval. We just make recommendations to them. But this is one of the few instances where the board actually approves it. As part of the staff's presentation, they will outline the steps that the application must go through that they've already gone through before being presented to the planning board. City planning staff will also provide their recommendation. As I said earlier, thank you for signing up. Those that did, please note that because this is not a public hearing, there is not an opportunity for the public to speak. Please note also that this has been please also note that this has previously been to the Board of Adjustment for variances, as Ms. Sullivan noted. The following is the format that will be noted, followed tonight. One will go through it, he'll talk about the project name, we'll do the staff presentation. The applicant can make a presentation or comments if they so desire. If they don't, that's okay too. Be open to the board for questions and applicant comments if they decide to. And then there will be a board vote and the motion would be either to approval conditions or denial. I do want to be careful. Tori, do we have a full complement on the phone now?
Let me go call. I'm call Kevin.
Is Doug on? He is not?
I cannot get anybody.
All right, then Ed, will you act as in Doug's place? Do you mind? And I think that's right as an alternate.
You hear? Okay, I have you on speaker. Okay, right here, Mr. Trivia.
That's Kevin.
This is Kevin.
All right. So Ed, if you would stand in for
Doug is trying to get in.
Doug, is trying to stand in. When we get ready to vote, see what we got. You would mind building a roll.
Thank you. Kevin, Doug, can you hear me?
Kevin said yes.
Good evening and thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, public. I appreciate you guys' comments and coming out tonight. It's always good to see citizens be, desire to come up and speak their voice and give me the opportunity. We are struggling with some technical difficulties. Do we have a department gun? This is quite the unusual way of doing the planning board. We usually have our stuff together a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
If it's okay, Mr. Chair, may I address one question?
Absolutely. Yeah, please do.
The question was brought up about setting a precedent with a variance. Variances are quasi judicial proceedings. They do not set precedents. They are only for that particular parcel of land for that specific case. So just want to make sure that that's very clear. Regarding questions and concerns about crime, that's not something that we can handle here in the land use planning. Good thing we have amazing police and fire. So.
Why are we meeting here versus?
Because our public information officer is not here. She's out of town and I decided that I could task this and I cannot. I failed so far. I'm so sorry. I cannot clerk and public information office at the same time.
You're doing just fine.
You are. And we thank you guys for your patience.
Thank you.
Well, I can probably talk a little bit about the case while we wait for the presentation. Sorry, I don't have any pretty pictures to show everybody. I don't like talking with my back to you guys, so I'm gonna move the podium over here. Pardon me, guys. All right, so the application is submitted by the property owners, Meridian Southport Series 3 LLC. The proposal is for a 4-story, 103-room hotel with a highway within the highway commercial zoning district. As we can see from the image of the UDO's table 3.1, right here would be a great image showing that the proposed land use, hotel, motel, or inns is a permitted by right with specific use standards. What that means is when we look at land use options, they are either prohibited or they are permitted. Now, if they're permitted, then they may have specific use standards associated with them, or they may just be permitted completely by rights. This in the hotel, or excuse me, in the highway commercial is permitted by right with specific use standards. I'll get into those standards a little bit more as I go on. This is going to be really interesting without my aides here, so I do appreciate you guys' patience.
When to hold that thought just a second. If we had to have an option, don't worry about Doug. We can get the presentation up.
Oh, that's what I'm trying to do right now. I forgot about Doug.
Okay. All right, thank you. Keep rolling.
So for the audience that may not know the process of how projects are evaluated and determined for development, staff generated this chart, and it's a flow chart. Essentially, again, I've been practicing for this.
Listen, if you folks want to come up behind me and look on my tablet, you're more than welcome to come up. If you want.
So essentially, we created a flow chart.
If you want to stand behind us and look over our shoulder, come on up. You know,
Why don't you turn it around so we can see?
Well, you won't be able to- it was never a glass.
I actually have a laptop with a presentation, and I'd be more than happy to share that with you guys.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that if you have questions specifically, that you can actually see the drawings. But again, you're welcome to come up behind us too.
It's actually the back.
Guys, I really appreciate your patience in working with us and just rolling with the flow. Just things happen. We adapt and overcome, yeah. All right. Would you guys be able to see if I find it right here? Oh, it's open.
Yeah. Full screen.
Well, if you want to sit there too to do the
I think
presentation.
I'm gonna have to, sir. Thank you. All right. Can you guys see this? Okay, good evening and thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Let's move on to slide 2, shall we? For your consideration this evening, I am bringing forth a major site plan concerning 2 parcels within the incorporated boundary of Southport. The application is submitted by the property owners Meridian Southport Series 3 LLC. Proposal is for a 4-story, 103-room hotel within the highway commercial zoning district. As we can see from the image of the UDO's table 3.1, can we see this? The proposal is a by right project with use standards attached to it.
Well, we define by right.
Yes, so, and I'll get to that in a second, actually right now, just 1 second, sir. So for the audience that may not know, the process of how projects are evaluated and determined for development, staff generated this flow chart here. A by right project is, a land use project could either be by right or it could be prohibited. If it is prohibited, to be able to get that land use in that designated zone, then you need to go through a rezoning process. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that because that's not what we're here for today. But if it is by right, then what you would do is go through the site plan approval process. And I know this is small here, but by right land use would be measured between, is it a major site plan or is it a minor site plan? The difference being, impervious ground cover. So the difference being impervious ground cover, if it's 10,000 square feet or greater, then it's going to be a major site. Either way, minor or major, staff will do a review of the project and then we would go through what is called a TRC process, which is a technical review committee. And that is where staff gets with fire, engineering, stormwater, environmental health, all these other agencies that has horse in that race. and they decide, hey, is what being proposed going to meet our requirements? And if it doesn't, they make comments. Hey, you forgot to meet these setbacks, or hey, this color scheme is the wrong color scheme that's allowed in this, et cetera, et cetera. And then we present those comments to the applicant, and it's up to them to address the comments and come back with a fresh case. So that is the TRC review. Now, for a major site plan where it deviates from minor, is that staff does not make the decision, at least not in Southport. Our esteemed planning board does decide the approval or denial of a major site plan. And tonight, you're here to hear a major site plan. So the process timeline. It starts with the pre-application meeting, wherein staff discern whether or not the proposed use is by right or prohibited. Staff then determines if there are any specific use standards associated with the use. In the case of hotels, motels, or inns, there are 5 standards as seen here. And I know you probably can't read that, but I'll read them out to you, okay? So number 1, the lot size shall be a minimum of 1 acre. 2, the primary means of ingress and egress shall be via major thoroughfare as designated on the Brunswick County Comprehensive Transportation Plan. 3, the property shall have a minimum of 200 feet of frontage on a major thoroughfare. 4, any building on the site must be a minimum of 200 feet from any residential district. And 5, in the HC, Highway Commercial District, the building height may exceed 40 feet if approved by the Board of Adjustments and if the building satisfies the following criteria. A, the city of Southport Fire Chief finds that the city can provide adequate safe fire protection, and or B, buildings which exceed 40 feet in height and are located on parcels adjacent to residentially zoned property must have an additional 1/2 foot of both rear and side yard setbacks. Forget about B. B does not apply here. All right. Again, in this case, the proposed project did not meet all the specific use standards. As was noted during the public comment, they did have to go through the variance process. So when we met for the pre-application meeting, that is the first thing we catch. Do you meet these bare minimum requirements, those 5 minimum requirements? And the location of the lots do not meet 3 of those requirements. Well, 2 of those requirements with a third, I'll explain in a second. If the variance is approved, I jumped ahead. In this case, the proposed project did not meet all the specific use standards and therefore had to apply for a variance. If the variance is approved, as it was in this situation, the next step will be a TRC review of the proposed developments. Once complete, the applicant will take all review comments and make the necessary corrections to the proposal. And when they are ready, they will resubmit their site plan with an application for a major site plan. All right. Prior to the establishment of the River Mist Plan Unit Development. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm not talking out of the slide here. Okay, so about the project. Prior to the establishment of the River Mist Plan Unit Development, the Dutchman Village was parceled out and zoned commercial within the Brunswick County jurisdiction. This was before 2004. In 2004, Southport annexed Dutchman Village and the zoning became highway commercial. So it's always been commercial since the original zoning. Highway commercial now, and it has been since 2014. Regarding Dutchman Village and the appropriate commercial spaces permitted there, the development's declaration of covenants and restrictions explicitly regulates those land uses that are not permitted and stipulates which commercial uses shall always be prohibited in the developments. They include those detailed on the slide. Please note that hotels are not excluded from the development. So I went through the arduous process, and I know that's really tiny reading. I'll just highlight a few of these for you. Reading a really fun document called the Declaration of Covenants. I don't know if you've ever had the joy of doing it, but it's a great time. Anyway, what I found out is that when these Dutchman Village was being platted, they have the foresight to say, we do not want these commercial establishments. And of those commercial establishments, anything that emits an obnoxious odor, noise, or sound, any secondhand surplus, head shop or pawn shop, any mobile home park, any dumping, incineration, or reduction of garbage, any fire cell, any vehicle cells, outdoor movie theater or outdoor entertainment, any establishment selling or exhibiting obscene material, and any flea market, amusement or video arcade, pool, billiard hall or dance hall, and any gambling facility or operation. I mentioned all those there because I want to explain to you, they went through and they lined out like 15 different things that they said, do not come to Dutchman Village. This is just a few of those. Hotels, motels, or inns is not part of that. So I just want to make sure that we understand they are allowed. Properties adjacent to the subject lots include residential and commercial parcels within Brunswick County's jurisdiction to the east, the Highway 211 corridor to the south, and beyond that, mixture of city and county commercial and residential lots. To the west is the bulk of Dutchman Village development, and to the north is the River Mist planned residential development. Here is an aerial image of the surrounding commercial uses. If you can see it, you'll see both Longlays over there. To the west, there's Wilmington I, that's directly south along with First Bank. You guys are from the area, so I know you're familiar with what is commercially available. I do want to point out that there is another hotel, Fairfield and Suites Southport, that is across the highway corridor. As mentioned earlier, the proposed development did require variance to proceed to the major site plan review process. UDO section 3.8R outlines the use standards prescribed for hotels, motels, or inns. I read those 5 use standards out to you. So essentially, what I'm about to get to, and I'm just going to wing it here rather than read, and essentially 3 of those use standards, they did not meet when they came through for their application. First one is being 200 feet from a major thoroughfare. They're approximately like 400 feet from the Highway 211 as the bird flies, but they're 200 feet from the major thoroughfare. The second one being ingress egress along a major thoroughfare. Sorry, I'll come back to that one. And then the third one being the height restriction. So they didn't meet these. Their option for coming into compliance is through a variance process. Which is a quasi-judicial proceeding. I think I spoke briefly about that earlier. And essentially, the board finds these findings of facts. Does the strict application of the UDO provide these hardships to the applicants? And they found in favor of that. Yeah, I know, it's astounding, right? They found in favor that the strict application of the ordinance was a legitimate hardship to the applicant. The applicant was able to successfully argue that because of the amount of traffic and work being done on 211, there's not an appropriate location for a hotel to be on 211. And that this was the most appropriate, highest and best use of the land within the reason. So that is variance. All right. Section 5 of this package, board members, includes the Board of Adjustments findings of facts. For the approval of the applicant's proposal, several development standards must first be met. They include everything from color of the facade to setbacks, parking lot design, pedestrian considerations, lighting, landscaping, signage, and of course, stormwater retention. So when I was talking about TRC, this is what planning does. We look, do they meet the parking requirements? Do they have the appropriate setbacks? Are they coming in compliance with the landscaping UDO? Are they removing trees? If so, what's their mitigation going to be? Et cetera, et cetera. The Home to Suites Hotel will account for 59,535 square feet of impervious ground cover. It will have 103 rooms for night rental and several conference spaces. The highest point of the building will be the elevator shaft on the roof that will measure 50 feet 6 inches. But the 4-story structure will have a height limit of 45 feet 2 inches. So I know it's greater than the 40 foot that's allowed in the highway commercial, but that's where they got the variance approval for. And again, that highest point, it's called the penthouse. I'm not sure why, but it's really just so that the elevator can be received up above the roof. The proposed development will have 2 access points along the Easton Street cul-de-sac, both of which will serve as points of ingress and egress. The UDO requires that a traffic impact analysis be conducted if a proposed development hits a threshold of 500 trips in a 24-hour period. The ITE traffic generation estimates a daily total of 347 vehicles going in and out of this specific development. So to answer some of your traffic concerns, and we'll dive into this a little bit better. Now, I really wish I had this blown up so you could see it a little bit better. But essentially, our UDO stipulates that if your development is going to generate 500 trips within a 24-hour period, you have to produce a traffic analysis. And that's got to be done by an engineer, traffic engineer. And they're going to say, okay, this is what you're proposing. This is what you're going to need to meet our traffic standards, a turning lane, a light, a sign, et cetera, et cetera. Well, this application did not exceed or even meet the 500 trip ITE code. They were 340 something trips. However, the applicant went ahead and with their own money, hired an engineer to do the traffic analysis. And what we see here is just one of many pictures. And if you guys would like to come up to see this better, I welcome it. You see the site. You see here that this is the roundabout. The red is egress, the black is the ingress. There's an existing intersection at where the First Bank and the driveway First Bank and the shops at Dutchman Village are. You see that there's a black stop sign and then a black exit and a black entrance. That means it's existing. What you don't see is there's a blue stop sign on the opposite side going eastbound, with the blue lane right here. That's going from the shops at Dutchman Village. Now, when they did the traffic analysis, the engineer stipulated these are things that the Dutchman Village or that the Homestead Suites developers can do to improve traffic flow. But there was nothing like this. This is what was supposed to be done by the existing developments there. They're supposed to input a new lane along the shops at Dutchman Driveway and a new stop sign. If we take it further east to the intersection of Easton and J. Swain, you'll see that everything there is existing as is, and it is not going to be improved whatsoever. So that's the way it is. And this would be the case whether Dutch Homestead Suites were there or not there. Hope that makes sense. For the board, the analysis can be found in the attachment 7 of this package. And here is, you guys are following along in PowerPoint. This is a letter from DOT stipulating that they did the traffic impact analysis and that they are fine to go ahead and develop. Here we see the proposed site plan. Here we see the proposed site plan. It details a total of 125 parking spaces, adequate zebra striping for pedestrian safety, sidewalks. Though not seen, the parking lot will be illuminated by a total of 10 light poles, not exceeding 20 feet in height.
Is those light poles comply with the city's?
They are. They sent us a photometrics evaluation, and our requirements are that they don't exceed 3,000 degrees Kelvin, and I forget what the height requirement is, and that the light shines straight down and not projected out.
They even sent a picture of
Yes. So, the light pollution is gonna be minimal, from development. There's always gonna be light pollution anytime that you see development, but it will be minimal. Please note that prior to receiving a building permit, the proposed project will be required to recombine both lots. As of now, it's two separate lots that are both unaddressed. But before they ever get to the point of getting the building permit, we're gonna recombine them.
I have a question on that. And further on in the presentation, it looked like recombination was supposed to happen before TRC approved. Did that change?
No, in fact, I don't know where it would stipulate in the UDO that recombination is required before tiers out.
Well, it's on 236, which be
Really?
36. Not in UDO, but
Presentation.
in the presentation. Scroll.
Before TRC?
Uh,
Thumbs in your minutes.
yeah.
I apologize.
So,
It's fine, something.
so apparently it hasn't happened, I guess. And apparently it's not happening before there's an application.
No, I don't know why my comment says that. That's staff error, my error, and I take ownership of that. That is not a requirement of the applicant to recombine before. I think what I was trying to write is recombination must take place. I don't know why I put it before the TRC, so I do apologize by that. Our UDO doesn't have guidance on when recombination happens. It just needs to happen before they get their building permit, so that there's no issues.
So do we have timing for that?
Last I knew, and the applicant definitely speaks to this more adequately, they hired a surveyor and it should be momentarily.
Then process.
So the site plans that we're looking at and approving tonight show 2 parcels.
And that's and that's the underground how it is.
In the TRC response to the lawyer, it states that they must do it prior to, and the acknowledgement from the lawyer on August 4th states noted. So they are in that process and they have acknowledged it.
Hey, keep rolling.
We turn to the next slide, please. Again. Again. And again. One more. All right. Please note that prior to receiving the building permit, the proposed project will be recombined. Before being issued a certificate of occupancy, the zoning final inspection will be required as well. Basically, I will have to go out there with our code compliance officer, Harlan, and we'll make sure that every single parking space is there that they are required to have, that the landscape plan that we were issued is physically there. If there's a sign, we make sure that the sign is appropriately spaced out and where it's supposed to be, and all those fine details that we've outlined as our design requirements. So before they can get a CO, we verify, put it on the ground, that those items are in place. In summary, this by right project meets all the standards established in Article 3 of the UDO. Staff recommends approval. This concludes my presentation, and at this time I can answer any questions you may have regarding it or the staff report. Thank you. And thanks again for bearing with me.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yes, thank you very much for your patience. Before we open it up to the board for questions, I want to see if the applicants have any comments they want to make or go to the board or anything that one of them said. You're okay with that? Keep rolling.
I think his presentation's just fine. We're here to answer questions if we need to.
Okay, great, thank you. Open it up to the board for any questions they may have.
Mr. Chair, this is Doug Bowie. I have a point of inquiry.
Okay,
There could be tension between the issue of the hotel, the 103-room hotel, and meeting our transportation and infrastructure and services goals, which are set out in draft comprehensive plan, page 33. Do we have any assessments that touch on this?
Sorry, one more time.
Yeah, give the question again, please.
You bet. I think there could be a tension between the addition of the 103-room hotel and meeting our transportation and infrastructure and services goals as set out on page 33 of the draft comprehensive plan. My question, do we have any assessments that touch on this?
As part of the comprehensive plan or part of this project?
Yes, this project, as it touches on the goals that we set forth in the comprehensive plan for transportation
Yeah.
and the infrastructure and services. Question.
Yep, the common comprehensive plan is just a draft, Doug. So we wouldn't be lining anything up before that gets approved by the Board of Aldermen. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, I guess I could go back then to the previous version, I think, which was 2020, but revised maybe. My big concern here would be not so much the traffic right there at the site, but I'm thinking kind of big thoughts here. If we have full occupancy at that facility, that would be roughly, say, one car, 103, let's just say
Sure.
7 staff cars. Maybe some 50 to 70% of those were aimed at Southport. And so that will have implications on the number of cars in Southport and where they're trying to park. And so don't know that anybody has an answer. I'm wondering though, have we assessed that aspect as part of this project?
If you don't mind. So that aspect of, essentially that has been assessed by the traffic impact analysis. The TIA stipulates that because they're not exceeding the 500 trips per 24-hour period, that they don't need to do any traffic improvements, other than making sure that the ingress and egress that they're using is appropriately directed. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but in regards to this specific major site plan, sir, they are not exceeding the ITE code of 500 trips per day, warranting traffic improvements.
Yeah, I think that's what it'll not take. Please forgive me, I can't see. That is helpful. Could you dial that in a little closer? 500 trips, I think it's from the hotel, but to where?
500 trips from and to the development.
So I think that could, are we talking about 500 trips like in 211?
So that's the threshold. What the hotel is going to generate, according to the ITE code, for a 103-room hotel is something like 343 trips. And that's, again, that's from the development and or to the development.
Okay, so I'll make the assumption, and I don't want to labor this too hard. I think you get the spirit of my question. Where are those trips coming to and from? If they're coming from, say, far outside the city and only to the hotel, that has an impact on downtown Southport. But if all those trips are to and from downtown Southport, that will have a pretty significant impact. So Wendell, I appreciate what you're saying, and I'm thanking you for it. Any thought on that particular permutation?
I think I'm not a traffic engineer, but I can't speculate on where they're coming and where they're going. That said, development doesn't happen in a vacuum, and whether all 343 daily trips go downtown or not, and I get your point, sir. Whether they go downtown or not is immaterial. Because at the end of the day, do they meet the threshold to do traffic improvements? And they don't. Does that help? And I hope that didn't sound snarky. I just want to make sure that it's very clear.
No, not at all. I think your focus is good and a little different than it is for my question. I'm all in with that. I think, Mr. Chairman, you probably understand where I'm going.
I do. You really want to know how many of those cars are going to come into Southport?
Yeah, you bet. And what the impact is on parking.
On our infrastructure.
Yeah, infrastructure, yeah, you bet. That is, in particular, forget parking just for a second. What if they don't park? What if they just try to come in, do U-turn and go back out? How will we, I'm not, I don't even know about mitigation. I don't even know how we would adjust something like that.
And Doug, I'm not sure how you would even begin to measure that because there's 6 ways to Sunday that they can go coming out of the parking lot. You know, you've got Walmart, you've got the church, you've got, further down, you've got Robert Rourke, you've gone on and on and on. I think it's almost impossible to determine. It'd be a real guess. Because you also have people going the other way, Long Beach Road or north to Supply. So, yeah, I think that'd be a tough one to really, if you had a venue, let's say a concert venue, when it was downtown here and you had a hotel that was connected to that venue, then I would say, yeah, you can expect all those people to come downtown. But I don't know that we could ever estimate how the impact is on the city. Interesting question, though. So, if I put Doug, Maria has a question?
Actually, it's adjacent to Doug's question.
Okay.
Does, and I don't know the answer, and it doesn't really totally apply to this proposal. But the reality is, does the County of Brunswick take those additional numbers for evacuation routes and resiliency of the city going in and out of the city? And how do we as a planning board submit new numbers from new projects so that 211 and 87 are adequately configured for evacuation, emergencies? I don't know that answer, but Doug brought up that question, and it's important to note that we have a lot of new proposals and they're adding to the evacuation route. And I'm not sure we've proposed that to the county as to when do we get an upgrade? When do we get some assistance in getting people evacuated? So that's a general knowledge question that I don't know.
I can, if I may.
Yes.
One part of that is monthly, the local planning departments have a meeting with DOT to review all of these traffic impact analysis. So DOT, the county, and the developers are getting together bi-monthly to discuss these traffic studies. So they are aware of the traffic coming in, and DOT is going to be taking those numbers as well.
I appreciate that answer. My comment would be not the people proposing here for the hotel, we're not required to do the traffic impact analysis. And there are a number of homes that have been developed without any traffic impact analysis. So that capture also should be included. And
They were not required to do one, but they did do a traffic impact.
my point for the county meeting is, how does the county account for
Yeah.
the additional homes and use that aren't required to do a traffic impact analysis? Do you know?
Well, but they do know how many lots they have that they've platted. They
Okay.
they know how much development has been approved. So they have to hope that looking forward, because we just did a comprehensive transportation plan for the county that was approved just this year. So we're hoping that looking at the projections of the lots that have been subdivided and the trends that we see can then be used for those traffic analysis.
So it's a pretty comprehensive input then, because you're not just looking at commercial, you're also looking at residential, and you have those meetings to be able to say, these are how many homes we have coming in, this is what we have for a hotel. Maria's got an excellent point for evacuation purposes. Fortunately, they're on the other side of the bridge, so that takes away a little bit of a choke point, but not a whole lot. But yeah, interesting.
Also, the Southeastern North Carolina Hazard Mitigation Plan is in process, and I was part of a meeting just earlier this week, and evacuation routes was one of the main topics that we were speaking about, so that is on the forefront of this mitigation plan. So hopefully in the next 9 months, when that's coming forward, there'll be some mitigation options for that there.
Really quick, I shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to. When you look right now, we have 2 evacuations. River Road is out. We have this hurricane that at one point was a category 5. And you're gonna shove everybody down there, and there's all the, I know I'm preaching to the choir. All these developments going along 211, it is just gonna be, yeah, it's not gonna be good.
Maybe the
Anyway,
one-
this is really outside of the topic that we have at hand, but I appreciate it. So, and Doug, I appreciate the thought as well. Thank you.
It's not public comment.
Please. Anything else? Any questions from the board? Any other questions? John, well, hold on, I'm sorry, Maria, are you all set?
I'm good.
Doug, are you all set? We'll take that as a yes, you probably, okay, John, please.
Similar question, much smaller scale. Any way we can get the sidewalk extended along Easton Street? Comprehensive plan, walkability, there's a commercial development adjacent to the hotel. Presumably people would be walking from the hotel to the restaurant or vice versa.
The parcel that is being constructed now, they're installing this sidewalks on their parcel as well. So there will be connectivity
On Swain?
on J. Swain down east and around the side as well.
So, okay, so they are, okay, very good.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
I have a question for the applicant. Is this exclusively a hotel or is there a restaurant associated with it?
Just the food continental breakfast that you would get as a guest. Not to the public.
So the answer, in case you couldn't hear it, the answer is no. Basically, just the breakfast location for continental breakfast, and that's it, not open to the public. Any other questions? The question I do have too, what's the timeline on this? Once you get your approvals, start to finish, to construction begin, to opening the doors to guests? What are we looking at?
Usually 12 months.
Yeah, I would think, based on our current process, probably starting.
Sorry, could you identify yourself, please, for the record?
Yes, I'm Lowell Larson, so and I can come up.
Sure, if you don't mind. Thank you. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but here we are.
No, that's fine. Yeah. My name is Lowell Larson. I'm based in Fort Walton Beach and run Southern Venture, which is the parent company over the applicant. Right now, we're working on closing financing, finalizing our franchise agreement. To get those things done, I think we're probably starting the hotel October, November
Of this year.
this year.
Okay.
The hotel will take approximately 12 to 14 months to complete construction. That'll put us opening right around the tail end of next year.
So you're planning on building permit prior to October?
Yes.
That fits everybody's schedule?
Yes, and that's what we do. That's, as it comes in, we'll review the building permit. That's how we'll sit down. So as the request comes in, my job explicitly is to review that building permit. And since this is going to be at a level of your approval, I will review the building permit as it's submitted to you. And if there's anything substantial deviated from there, then we have a problem and I deny the building permit. If there's a minor deviation, like window placements, then that's an administrative approval. But my job is essentially look at what is being proposed and make sure that it is within keeping of what is approved.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions about the board? Kevin on the phone, any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions at all? Thank you, appreciate it. All right, there are no further questions. Can have a motion to either approve it, approve the conditions, or deny it. We have a motion on this. We need to also, intend a motion to approve this major site plan, MSP 25-01, Home to Suites application.
Make the motion that we approve it. They've completed the major site plan. They have gotten the TRC approval. They've responded back and within the time frame. And we have a plan of action related to checking to make sure all of the plans remain was presented.
Yep.
So I make the
Applied for.
motion that we approve.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? On the phone, any discussion? Okay. Ed, I need to kick you off again, but because Doug's on the phone, I'm going to take his vote. Okay. So the motion been made and second. There's no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you all in the audience and welcome to Southport.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We appreciate being here.
Thank you. All right. Everybody, welcome to stay if you want and,
One more question for the applicant.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you guys would consider purchasing that concert corner with a large live oak
So
farm?
my hearing's terrible, so.
Is there any way your corporation would consider purchasing the corner of J Swain and 211 where the live oak trees are and converting?
I'm not sure what corner that is.
It's directly across with the stop at the intersection of the opposite side. And there's a maybe orange tree in the area. 20+ feet. Ask her, is there any way your corporation would have any interest in buying that? Sure, it's pretty fancy.
Are you talking about this one right here? This corner of property? Oh, over here. Now, do it.
Tori, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess.
Take note of that.
Jiffy Little Car Wash, that's what it is.
Great, sir. I know. Worst case scenario, it's going to be
Okay. It was actually a really interesting, meeting. Thank you. And thank you, everybody at home that is, has been more than patient, with the small technical difficulties we had. I think we're back on the way we should be now. So next up, going into old business, because we reversed the agenda a little bit, is ZTA 24-05 special events, and you're up.
Thank you, Chair Ashley and members of the planning board. This evening, we are taking a look at the text amendment 2405 for special events at bed and breakfasts. Following the Board of Adjustment case for a special use permit for a bed and breakfast to operate as a wedding venue, the Board of Aldermen requested an amendment to the UDO that would allow for special events or give some sort of consideration for special events at bed and breakfasts. The planning board forward language by the text review committee, planning board review committee and staff, to the Board of Aldermen that would allow a new accessory land use as a special event. So these new accessory land uses were events that were more intense in use than otherwise permitted for daily operation of these businesses, non-residential uses. There was some hesitation about adding a new accessory use to the use table. So the Board of Aldermen tabled the discussion and then brought it back to their August 14th regular meeting for further discussion. The discussion sent this new language that is before you. Yes, please. Next slide. Thank you. That will be exclusively for bed and breakfasts and not for any other non-residential use. So this is just for the bed and breakfasts. And it needed to come back to the planning board because the new language was not just amending some of the text that was sent forward. It was a brand new text amendment. So the attorney advised that we needed to have a recommendation from the planning board and hold another public hearing prior to this adoption. So the new language includes a fourth standard for bed and breakfast. So bed and breakfasts are a special use with standards in the UDO use table. So it's adding a fourth that would allow special events, including weddings, dinners, and other small gatherings for the benefit of overnight guests. And the special event capacity shall not exceed the number of overnight guests registered at bed and breakfast. We are also adding a definition of special event to the UDO. Is activities, special event is then defined as activities held in venues where the event is secondary to the venue's primary use. And those events will include, but are not limited to, weddings, receptions, and dinners. So staff finds that this text amendment is consistent with the 2014 Cameron Land Use Plan and recommends that the planning board forward a recommendation of approval to the Board of Aldermen.
So this is requested by the board.
That's correct, sir.
Actually, I'll open up, I'm sorry, I'll open it to the board if they have any questions. Anybody?
I am.
I'm sorry, ladies first.
Oh, well, that's not good because I'll get to talk a lot.
We'll shut you off. We need to.
Okay. Mine is regarding the temporary use permit per quarter, as well as permits to the police and fire department, temporary use permits 30 days prior. I hate to share my experience, but I grew up in a family that did catering, and anybody who's having a wedding or a dinner with just 30 days notice is not really planning. And so I have, as it relates, it states must apply for a temporary use permit 30 days prior to the event. That should be no later than 30 days or in some other advanced format, because no one's going to plan a wedding or a dinner and not invite their guests 6 weeks in advance, and they need confirmation that they can have the event.
And let me go back a little bit. I apologize for the new members. The language that was further back in the packet itself is language that was originally proposed by the planning board that was brought to the Board of Aldermen that they didn't want to include. So that all of that language is not being considered. The only language that they brought back were these two separate changes. So
I'm looking at the green.
yes, ma'am.
That's what I'm speaking to, the green under specialized events.
Right, so that was the original language that was brought forward by the planning board to the Board of Aldermen that they did not want to adopt. So they heard a presentation by staff requesting this text amendment that included the temporary permit and all of those, and said, no, we don't want to have a whole new series of permits and events that as a use. So they're bringing this back to the planning board for consideration rather than this language.
So-
Love it. So
Yes.
that if I'm going to a
Yes.
bed and breakfast
Yes.
and I want to plan my next wedding for husband number 3 or 4 or 5, I can have it and I don't have to go to Chief Drew and go, hey, is it okay?
As long as you are just inviting people staying at the end with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's each husband. You don't get it.
Well, whatever. I'm just planning ahead, right? You gotta make sure.
Yeah, but it's, you've got a really good point, because of the green, that's what was originally proposed. How do we work this so that maybe it's less confusing, I guess?
Well,
Yeah,
it might be education. It's my
Yeah.
first meeting. I
Okay.
don't know. That's.
yeah, no, but it's a good ask. It is.
Well, and to follow up on, I'll turn it back over to you, but I think it's a good question because I was on the committee, UDO, Larry, and Kevin. I understood the problem we were trying to solve when we wrote all of that. I don't understand the problem that this proposed wording is trying to address. What are we trying to prevent or encourage?
This is allowing some events that people like to rent a bed and breakfast to have a small event. There are some bed and breakfasts around the city that will hold a small reception, a dinner. But this does not allow a huge wedding, does not allow an event that the bed and breakfast that they had proposed originally wanted to turn it into a large event venue that would hold weddings up to 150 guests.
That's what.
So that's where this really precipitated, and we wanted to make sure that, yes, we're not going to try to hold you back. We want you to be able to have some things at your site. But we know that there's only so much capacity because these structures are in the residential districts.
I think you answered my question, and it had to do with the special event capacity. This is, when I looked at weddings and dinners, and you look at the capacity of a typical bed and breakfast is only 6 or 8 or 10 people. I don't know too many people that are going to have a wedding party with only 8 people in it. So it was just a clarification of, on my part, so thank you.
Sure, you're
You did answer that.
I was just thinking, I wish my daughter's wedding.
Right?
Any other,
I've got some more.
please, yep.
I'm just to follow up on Bob's point. We had there was a lot of discussion before about indoor events versus outdoor events and all the impacts. We don't mention whether these are indoor or outdoor events. Don't know if it matters, but if you've got a dinner with the capacity of, the registered guests at the bed and breakfast, is it a special event to have just a dinner in a bed and breakfast? That's inside, is it inside or outside? We don't say anything about that. That's true. Good point.
And I don't think that because the size is not going to be more than what was already saying at the end, that would be using the facilities normally, that it was just specifying that, yes, we recognize that you might want to do something. So we're not limiting you to just having this space, but if you wanted to do a little bit more, so someone wanted to have a little bit more, wanted to have a caterer come in, wanted to have a guitar player, something that it just makes it a little more special, but it's allowing that without going too far and putting stress on the infrastructure, parking, noise, those types of things in the neighborhood.
Okay, so again, I go back to my original question. Why do we care if a bed and breakfast has a dinner? Okay, they're bed and breakfast, not bed and dinner. But if they were a bed and dinner, they would have this dinner every night. So what's special about it? Is it the fact that it would be outdoors or?
I think the fact that this is, that there was when someone comes forward with their management plan for the bed and breakfast, and they say they want to do events, there was nothing for staff to go to say, okay, yes, you can or cannot do this as part of your bed and breakfast business. So this gives us some guidance at staff, us being staff, so that when someone comes to us, we can say, sure, you can do some things, but know that it can't be a large function that's inviting guests from offsite.
So you can do any special events as long as they're not special.
Special is,
That's right. My last question goes to the management plan. I don't know what that is, and I didn't see a definition for it. Is that something that bed and breakfast? No.
yes, it's a business plan,
Okay.
really.
Any other questions?
No, I've done.
No, that's what we're here for. Ask away. Any questions on this side? No. Doug on the phone, any questions?
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Kevin on the phone, any questions?
Just an explanation. The committee, it was John, and I think it was Fred, I think there was also a committee originally that posed certain amendments or text amendment with regard to bed and breakfast. And we were going to be a little broader with my recollection. They're doing now, they're saying, this is going to be exclusive, these guidelines are exclusive for bed and breakfast. And they want to limit them because most bed and breakfasts in town are residential areas. And none of them have substantial yards. So I can see why they're not limited. And in part 4 of subpart C, where it talks about special events. And next shall not exceed. Because most bed and breakfasts usually don't serve dinners, so obviously it's going to be a special event. And I think it's just more of the impacts on the areas they are and limit the size, which probably will make the residents quite happy.
Great. Okay. Great. Thank you, Kevin. Any questions? Mo, just out of curiosity, what's the largest capacity bed and breakfast that we have? Less than 25?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say 6 or 8 would be the max.
Okay. And the special event is limited to those that are staying at the facility.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So the applicant that started this whole process for their bed and breakfast, I understand there's a building application filed to expand their garage and add more lodging perhaps.
No, not this one. They're going to be renovating it for just another social space. I think they want to put a pool table in there and just another space for recreating on site.
All right, any other questions? So on this one, we are going to, motion would be to either approve, disapprove, or approve the conditions to recommend approval by the Board of Aldermen. So what's the board's? I'll what if we do is I'll intend a motion to recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen for the CTA 24-05 special events zoning text amendment.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Okay, do I have a second? Kevin, second on the phone. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Oh, hold on. Let me have the ayes on the phone. Doug, was that an aye?
Yes.
Okay. Kevin, that was an aye.
Yes.
Okay, Maria?
I should have brought this up in discussion. I don't see the point. You could have dinner anytime you want in the bed and breakfast. So I'm kind of like on an abstain level. I just,
Okay. We'll push down as, Fred, you're an aye, I'm an aye. John?
I'm a no.
No. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstention. Great, thank you. All right.
we're gonna make it interesting.
And can I get somebody to read the statement of consistency?
Yes. Sure.
No.
If Maria gets the vote, it's a yes.
What's that?
If Maria doesn't vote, it's automatically a yes.
I'm gonna abstain. You can abstain.
It still counts as a yes technically for state statute.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's actually the procedures, isn't it? Rules and procedures that we have, yeah. Yeah, and what that does, that forces somebody to, and I should have caught that, thank you, Tori, that it keeps the board from not taking action. So you have to take action.
May I take an action then?
You may.
I will vote no.
Okay, so we'll have 2 no's, the rest yeses. Thank you. We'll take that as a vote. So the amendment, zoning text amendment 24-05, statement of consistency and recommendation, the city of Southport. Planning board hereby recommends adoption of the proposed zoning text amendments. The Board of Aldermen finds that they are consistent with the city's 2014 Camer land use plan originally adopted November 13th, 2014, and subsequently amended by the Southport Board of Aldermen. More specifically, the proposed amendment is consistent with policy 7.22. The city shall continually maintain all official planning documents. Okay, thank you. All right, next up, ZTA 25-04, the UDO updates. Let's take that.
Thanks, sir. All right, hopefully this will get a little bit more smooth. Good evening and thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. For your consideration, this evening I bring forth a text amendment proposal concerning Articles 3 and 8 of the Unified Development Ordinance. Slide, please. Case number CTA 2504 is a request by the Alderman to amend the UDO. Presently, the UDO does not accurately reflect the incorporated city of Southport since the relinquishment of the extraterritorial jurisdiction. Purpose of this proposal is a multifold and consists of updating the UDO to reflect the current zoning districts of Southport. We incorporate those land uses lost with removal of the ETJ. The NC statute requires the NC statute requires the city to have purge outdated unnecessary land uses and to update dimensional standards for accessory structures. Excellent. With the relinquishment of the ETJ, Southport lost 3 zoning districts: the manufactured housing district, the light industrial district, and the heavy industrial district. And if you look at the slide, it'll give you the definitions of what those districts are for. Next slide, please. With the removal of those 3 zoning districts, a total of 12 land uses became displaced and no longer permitted within the incorporated city of Southport. Of those 12, 2 are required by state statute to be incorporated into jurisdictions zoning ordinance, into a jurisdiction's zoning ordinance. Those 2 are adult businesses and manufactured homes on single lots. Next slide, please. This slide extrapolates the language in the statute regarding each land use that we are required to have. And I'll just briefly give you notice for adult businesses, adult entertainment businesses, it's tied to constitutional First Amendment freedoms, and we can't limit that.
And it's required by state law.
Yes, both of these are required by state law.
Okay.
So, and then for manufactured homes on a single lot, those are also required as well. A local government may not adopt or enforce zoning regulations or other provisions that have the effect of excluding manufactured homes, et cetera. Next slide, please. Before we explore the proposed changes to the UDO, here's a key. Red text indicates new language. Yellow highlight indicates a note made by staff, and a strike through is existing text that is proposed to be removed. Please note that in the interest of time, this presentation does not include every text amendment throughout Article 3. We would be here for a while, as those that are on the UDO committee can attest. It's quite extensive. However, at Director Meehan's discretion, we want to put this, the things that are going to be the most effective to the citizenry. So there we are.
So this really, if I can interrupt you just really quickly, I just have this thought. This really brings us up to date because of the loss of the ETJ from last year, with a lot of what's in here.
Correct, yes, sir. That's the largest piece of the puzzle. There are some things that the UDO committee and staff have wanted to weed out unnecessary land uses or incorporate new land uses that didn't have anything to do with the ETJ. But by and large, that's why we're here tonight, is to make the UDO synonymous with existing zoning.
Thank you.
So our first text amendment concerns accessory use standards. Essentially, everything stays the same for commercial accessory uses. We can't increase any setbacks or anything like that for commercial. However, for residential zoning districts, we want to make sure that when people put up a bi-level shed, garage, they're not blocking out their neighbor's view. So we're increasing the setback from 5 feet to whatever that zoning district's requirement. So if you're in a 10,000 R10 lot and you have a minimum rear setback of 20 feet, and you want to put up a 2-story shed or a 2-story garage, rather than being 5 feet from the property line, you're now going to be required to do 20 feet from the property line. Next slide, please.
It says 10 feet here.
I'm sorry, 10 feet. You're, I'm sorry.
10 feet for the rear and your normal side setback, how we wrote it.
And is it also prorated in for the non-conforming lots,
Yes, non-conformance would.
Deeper rate, isn't it?
including the rear?
Correct.
Yeah, you're not gonna have to move anything. If you're already there, you're not gonna.
No, I'm just asking because the biggest question is always, is the lot non-conforming, conforming, and how does it apply? So I'm just asking for my own understanding.
Sure.
So whatever the zoning district is, including non-conforming lots, that'll be the setback standard for accessory structures.
So a conforming lot, 10,000 square feet is 10 feet from the rear.
Yes.
2-story, 530 square feet
Yes, sir.
structure. And if it's non-conforming, it'll be the percentage.
Correct. So say it's a 9,000 square foot lot. Well, we would reduce the lot rear setback from 10 feet to 8 feet at that point. 9, sorry, 9. Been a long day already. Apologies.
No worries.
Thank you for catching that, man. Okay, so next slide, please. This text amendment concerns food trucks or mobile vendors. Essentially, we kept the bulk of the language, except we made it so much more easier for the applicant. Whereas before, the applicant and the property owner, or the onus was on the property owner to do a lot of the legwork for getting a mobile vendor. And also before, this land use was an accessory to a primary land use. Now this is, sorry, I'm saying that backwards. It was a primary, changed from primary use to accessory use. Long day, sorry. Changed from so before it was a primary use, now it's an accessory use to an existing business, like say tap and cellar, for instance. However, what we did differently is we made sure that the vendor only has to get 1 permit and for the year, and that will cover whatever site that they want to go to. So say you're a mobile food truck vendor, sir, and you want a permit for a tap and cellar, we're going to require the same stuff, the site plan, the agreements with you and the property owner, environmental health regulations, etc., licensing, all that stuff. However, if you want to go to multiple places, you're going to be able to keep the same permits, just going to add us a new site plan and a new property agreement, a new letter with agreement.
So instead of having to do one for every location.
Exactly, yes, sir. So it saves money, and it's more convenient for the user at the end of the day. And like I said, it also takes the onus off the property owner or the restaurateur or whoever maybe hosting the vendor and puts it on the vendor themselves.
So this would be an improvement for a commercial food truck.
It is, yes, sir.
And it's the reason you took the food truck out.
Yes, sir. We wanted to make it more inclusive, mobile vendor. One or the other, if there's a mobile vendor out there, we, from a planning land use point of view, our standards are going to be pretty straightforward. Rather than having mobile vendor and food truck and ice cream push carts, and, you know, we just made a simple mobile vendor.
Wendell, and I remember, I think we discussed this. Is there anything in here that makes sure the mobile vendors are actually mobile? Like you can't park food trucks for 6 months on the site or?
Yes, that's already, it's listed in the UDO. That's language that we just adopted from the previous, text.
So it's in, I'm just not finding it. In this section.
So place of operation, it's under the number 4, item 4. Mobile vendor may operate on individual property for a maximum of 120 days per 12-month period. Mobile vendors. So if someone exceeds that and we get wind of it, that's going to be a zoning violation. They could potentially lose their permitting ability, and or be, fined a civil penalty.
It also states all related equipment shall be removed from the site following the permitted hours of operation. So once they close, it's gonna come off the lot. Can't stay overnight.
Correct.
Maybe we talked about that before.
We talked about this one a lot.
Yep.
Next slide, please. Swimming pools. You look at the UDO, swimming pools for one reason or another are not permitted in certain zoning districts. Don't know why. Swimming pools are accessory use. We decided we would bring them up. Swimming pool setbacks would be measured. This is the big impetus for bringing this over here. Right now, as it stands, swimming pool setbacks are measured from the edge of the water. So you could have a really wide decking on grade, and you can still be encroaching into the setback substantially, as long as you're measured from the property line to the edge of the water and you meet that standard. So the impetus here is saying, no more of that. We're measuring the setback from property line to the edge of the decking, closest edge of the decking. Pardon?
Right.
Or,
So, Wendell, we're not saying which coping, you said it, the closest one, but I don't see it. Under,
so to the coping or decking of the pool, and shall not be less than 5 feet in distance.
right, but which edge of the decking? You said the closest edge of the decking, which
Yes, so
which is kind of what we all understood that we wanted, right? 5 feet from the outside edge of the decking, but it doesn't say that here. You said it, but it's not written in.
I'll have to look at
So
that.
it's just the side of the coping closest to the property line.
I think I apologize. When I wrote this, I thought that goes without saying, just to the edge of the.
Oh, I put it in just in case. What if it's from the measure from the side or in? I put it in.
So like the permit reviewer, I would say, I guess I wrote this from my point of view also. I appreciate your point, man. As a permit reviewer, I would say essentially, no, the closest edge of the decking, that's how I measure any setback. It's from the closest point of that accessory structure, whatever it is, to the.
But you have to be clear, because somebody will say, well, I want to measure from the coping, not from the decking.
So it's gonna be from the closest edge. So say this is my water-based pool, my boat right here, and this is the decking, and then property lines here. The way it's intended, the setback would be measured from property line to here.
But it says to the coping or decking.
Decking.
What is the coping, the edge of the pool?
If there's no decking.
Yes.
If there's, I guess, but. No, I mean, the point is it should be the closest to the
Point,
property.
right.
And Tom Z is gonna be interested in that when he looks at impervious surface.
Yeah.
So it's doesn't just affect these, it affects stormwater.
It also changes the side setbacks and the rear setbacks, because if it's 5 feet and you have a non-conforming lot, the lowest side boundary can be less than 5 feet on some of the smaller portions.
No, is that our intent?
No, I apologize, man, that's it. But for swimming pools, they don't need, they are not offset by the non-conforming lot, well, if that's what you're.
Okay,
5 feet is the standard regardless if it's a non-conforming lot.
but that'll be how it's interpreted, just like I did. Naively, they'll look at it and go, okay, I have a non-conforming lot, et cetera. But yeah, I appreciate the education. No problem.
Yeah, you'll have to word this a little bit differently, so it's, to the coping or decking.
My pleasure.
Whichever's closest to the property line, yeah, so that, because I don't want to measure from the deck, I want to measure from the coping.
Yeah.
Because I want my deck to be right up to the property line.
I think we all understand the intent, it's just, we gotta make sure it's
You're right, because people will do that if they don't have enough room. They'll take the deck off the back board, measure from the coping, leave the deck on the front part or around closer to the house.
Or they'll build their deck later on after it's destroyed. Weekend.
They're still getting around, after the fact, you know.
Have you been to Holland?
I have a question. Speaking with Harlan, he also indicated that accessory equipment like pumps and filters and them should also be included in that setback rule as well.
That's correct.
So it's not just the coping, decking, but anything associated with the operation of the pool.
That's a good catch.
As of now,
I would-
please correct me if I'm wrong, but, as of now, pool pumps and those things, they're an exempt, they're exempted to be into the
Setback.
setback. Just, I don't know what the distance is allowed. I think 36 inches maybe, but, is that correct?
50% of the setback requirement.
Yeah, so those accessory things like pumps and the pool equipment, those can encroach into the setback, just by the set standard.
So what wording would you use on this for the distance to the deck or the coping? Closest one. Because I don't want to do or it's too nebulous. It's too, which one do I want to
Just
take?
work deck, catch it all.
And then what's the deck?
Yeah,
So I think it may just.
I think deck, is it catch-all, decking?
Decking whichever is closest to the property line.
Closest structural member
Yeah,
associated with the
Yeah.
pool.
yeah. Yeah,
Thank you. I can make that work.
no, we should go through all you and look for all the ors.
Next slide, please.
So I guess, quick question before we leave this.
Yep.
Director Meehan's going to say something, just one second.
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just saying, can we agree on writing? We don't want this back, right?
No.
So,
So I think what we can do is, you guys can approve it with the condition that this has been revised
okay,
to change the language
Mhm.
and to accept the language.
got it.
Is that,
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, so we need to agree on some language, is what I was gonna say.
Mhm.
Maybe we just use coping, because that is what is on the edge that caps the pool. So some people the reason that we said or decking is some people don't have a deck. But I think coping is the right word, is that caps the edge of an in-ground pool, and it keeps it, that's what is the cap of the pool. I don't think that structural member, because I don't consider a coping or any sort of decking, like a concrete decking, would not be structural. So I don't want to assume that everyone's going to have some sort of structural, and that might be a loophole for people saying, well, I don't have a structure, but I'm just going to have 5 feet from the edge of my pool. Things to think about. And I would just leave it at that. For the board's consideration.
Yes, Kevin.
There's a difference, I think, into what is the definition. If you look up what is the definition of coping and the definition of decking, the decking usually deals with platforms or terraces. And coping deals with brick, of course, brick or stone. So I think maybe that's why that's or because they refer to 2 different types of substances. Materials, brick, shot on this, with its background, but you have to cover every potential source, and unless there's one word that anyone can think of, you have to have more.
I think if you word it where coping can be 5 feet from the property line, that doesn't say I can't build a deck beyond, right, and into the setback.
Yeah, I think our intent is to keep the decking out of the,
Yeah.
There's no differentiation here between an above-ground pool or an in-ground pool. Right? Is decking associated with an above-ground pool
yes,
as opposed to coping?
yes. So we just, we pointedly do not differentiate between either of those. We just want to say pool. The idea here is to set the setback standard from rather than the edge of the water to the edge of what was going to be the structural member. What if we said something to the effect of the edge of the closest impervious ground cover?
I don't know, because decking is considered
Can-
impervious.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Why don't we change,
Just so you know, when we do, let's make sure we go to the chair.
I'm sorry, Chair, my apologies.
No.
Chair, I'd like to make a suggestion. What if we say that 5 feet to the property line for coping of an in-ground pool or decking of an above-ground pool? That covers both in a single sentence, which is what I hear you say. You wanted to include both without having to detail it out.
On that, when we were building our house, we were told that we could actually put decking in and it wouldn't count the impervious surface. So you could actually build a pool in ground with a deck on it. So it's not necessarily only for above ground pools. You could also do an in-ground pool with a deck around as well.
But we're looking at distance to the setback on impervious ground. And so I'm trying to get the distance to the,
Right, but you were saying, you know, a deck for an above ground or.
because decking on an above ground pool is the edge or the flare or the protection related to it. So, because when I just looked up coping is the more or less porcelain textile layer you have.
Mhm.
And above ground pool either has a rim or it has a built deck, right? So without decking, they would measure to that rim of the above ground pool. If they put a decking in, then they'd have to set it back further to get to the boundary at 5 feet. It solves Wendell's problem in keeping it all in one sentence by declaring decking for above ground and coping for in ground. And then the impervious surface is a whole nother issue separate from the boundary setback, and they would have to consider that themselves, but potentially not here.
If you have an in-ground pool,
Don't have a
put
time.
decking around it. I guess from all our previous discussion, we wanted that decking to be outside the setback.
Yeah.
Yes, so that works because they'd have to measure it, decking from above ground pool 5 feet out. So if they want just hey, I'm driving down the highway and I see the pool over there and all it is a pool, they can have that 5 feet. They can't ever put their decking on it, right? They'd have to measure the decking to allow for it.
But again, you can still have decking and an in-ground pool too.
I think decking.
That's where it's.
But it's still gonna be 5 feet.
Yeah, no, I know. But I think the whole idea is we were trying to give some kind of a setback to the neighbors from a pool, so it's not encroaching right up against the edge of the property.
So I think the definition of decking, I don't think it has to be just wood. A decking could be concrete, a decking could be metal.
What if we left it to 5 feet from the pool or any pool associated opportunities, such as decking?
That makes me think equipment. I think, what if we just said decking?
And we need to define decking somewhere.
Well, to me, okay,
Yeah.
so when I have been permitting pools, you see the coping where people don't have enough room, so they have to have the coping, which is the stone or the brick around their pool where they're going inside. Or you'll have the coping and more 5 times out of, or 99% of the time, the decking is concrete. So it's going all the way to the property line because the pool only has to be set back from 5 feet. So the pool line. So that's where this coming, why we brought this in, to keep some more impervious surface around the perimeter of the yard. So the goal is to keep some open impervious area in the setback when you have a pool. So that's our goal. So how we would like to move forward, then we can go from there.
Make people buy bigger lots.
So we could do the coping or decking, whichever is closest to the property line,
Decking or coping.
whichever is closest, whichever is closest.
Well, okay, how about this? We could say swimming pool setbacks will be measured from the side or near yard property line to the edge of the coping or decking closest to the property line.
Okay.
And shall not be specified here.
But that would only be measured to the coping if there is no decking.
Coping or deck.
Yeah.
I know it's an order.
Whichever is closest, yeah.
But it's not multiple choice.
True.
Right there, it says either or.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer?
Which one's closer?
And that's where you would add whichever is closest to the property line.
And
That's a good suggestion.
Right?
I'm good with that.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
do we have it?
So, for, prosperity, so what is the language going to be? I'm so
Can
sorry.
you play back the tape? Okay, so there's some change to what I said, but, be measured from the side or rear yard property line to the closest portion of coping or decking.
To the coping or decking, whichever is closest to
Whichever
the
is
property
closest.
line. Yeah. Okay. I think we're a thumbs up. Moving on. Yeah. Kevin, good?
Thank you, John. And then-
Doug?
Hey, I just think, I'm not smiling at that conversation that just happened, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if this is the conclusion of the complete brief, so sorry, I can't see.
Okay.
Next slide, please.
Close the slide.
Think about it.
Not again.
So the next major text amendment would consider drive-throughs attached to restaurants. We'll find it in my, real quick. And I'll read it out to you.
Page 32.
32.
So restaurant carryout, standard fast food. The red text will say drive-through service is permitted in the PUD, the BD, and HC zoning districts. The following shall apply. 1, drive-through speakers shall be located in the side or rear yards. 2, drive-through services shall be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the front building line of all street-facing facades. 3, exterior speakers shall be designed to minimize sound to adjacent properties, including placement of speakers in windows, doors, and the use of vegetation. 4, drive-through services shall not be located within 250 feet of any residential zoning districts. I can repeat that as necessary.
Yeah, I think that meets the intent of what we were trying to say. We didn't really decide how many areas are left outside that 250 foot, but I don't think we care, right? I mean,
Yeah. The whole intent of this is to make sure that because we have such residential districts close to some of the commercial districts, that somebody doesn't come in with a coffee shop at 5 o'clock in the morning, taking orders up against a residential district, so the neighbors have to hear somebody ordering their latte with whatever. Not that I drink those. That's the intent of this.
Were these requested or just a thought?
I requested it.
So this goes back to, while this text amendment was asked of us by the alderman, we formed a UDO committee of 3 planning board members. And while we're there are certain land uses that we wanted to implement that weren't necessarily ordered by the alderman, but we figured while we're amending this text, we should address these issues before they become issues, such as drive-through noise pollution.
And I lived in a community where this was an issue. So it was to prevent these issues.
And Larry, for, just, you know, maybe you don't know, but there was a special committee of 3 members of it met on numerous occasions with Ann Window and went through this a number of times to try to come up with meaningful text amendments where it was needed. And this was this was his brainchild. So a lot of time has gone into on this. Of course, it's good to get some fresh input.
So, Mr. Chair, my comment would be, we're talking about feet, but if I'm 10 feet from the front of the building and I use supercharged decibels, and I can speak to this because I have a loud voice with a decibel that you can hear down the road. Somebody gets on that speakerphone, the 10 feet may not be enough. And so that was the reason for my question. Why are we adding this?
Yep.
Because feet is an arbitrary measurement for sound.
Right.
Just a thought.
To that point, when we were tasked with finding out and amending the text of creating this text, Director Meehan and myself looked at dozens of UDOs throughout North Carolina, particularly those that are in similar cities like Southport. None of them mentioned anything about decimal measurements.
Okay.
And if they did, I don't know how we would enforce that or measure that.
They have a reader.
They have,
But that's fine. I have no complaint with the wording. I have no issue with it being there. It's just I look for objective measures, and feet isn't an objective
Absolutely.
measurement of sound, right?
yes, ma'am.
So just a thought.
Yeah, and I'm just explaining how we came up with the fee, sorry.
Good.
Hey, Wendell, I'm sorry. Well, it's not an arbitrary, you know, when you're dealing with this, depending what they look at, is at the average decibel level. You're trying to look at what is the average decibel level that is going to be audited. Most people, when they come up to the drive-through, sound does have an impact because the sound dissipates over distance. That's why you have to pick some type of measure, and it's the best one that's available because there is no other.
Okay.
And that's why I can put distance between where the sound's beginning. And, you know, a simple analogy, if I'm talking clarity, you're standing 5 feet away, and if you hear it, you're 20 feet away, and you can't hear it. So sound and distance do have a relationship.
Thank you, Kevin.
That's it.
I like the feedback all the way around.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, it's better to have this vetted very well.
This also helps flesh out any questions that the auditor may have as well. So this helps me out a lot. I do appreciate the feedback because I don't want to go in front of the auditor and have these low-hanging fruit type questions addressed to me and not be prepared for it. So I do appreciate the feedback. Next slide. Nope. Okay. So our next text amendments, we're getting towards the end of it. Tattoo and body piercing establishments.
Hey, sorry, Wendell, this is Doug, Mr. Chair, point of inquiry.
Sure.
I was thinking that as I read the 4 points for the drive-through service, that the one that seems to deal with potential traffic jams is number 2. And maybe I just missed the discussion on that. We talked a lot about noise pollution, which is great. Is that trying to address the traffic load and just backed up in the street?
Yeah, you think it's static?
Yes.
That's so you think it's stacked starting in front of the building.
Yeah.
Okay, that's paragraph 2 is trying to address that. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Right.
And if, pardon me, sir, if a drive-through were to come in, almost certainly that would trigger a TIA, and that would be part of the engineering assessment. Is what does this look like for traffic? And what, so, in fact, I've never worked a project that drive-through was a part of that did not trigger a TIA.
Yeah, I think those kind of trips on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So stacking is one of those points of conversation that's at the forefront of that assessment. Sir.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, so tattoo and body piercing establishments. So this was a land use that we had previously before we lost the ETJ. It was established only in the high industrial zoning district that was Southport. But now that we no longer have a high industrial, or excuse me, heavy industrial, it is gone kaput. We brought forward this idea of having a tax amendment so that if the market dictates that there's going to be a tattoo parlor, we get to have some kind of parameters on there. That is why it's here. Because as of now, there are no parameters. And all it would take is a person getting a special use permit and then meeting the, I don't want to say arbitrary, but meeting the standards that are established by the Board of Adjustments. So this proposed tattoo and body piercing, it's keeping the same parameters that were involved in that one before we lost ETJ. Essentially no specific use standards, but it will have to go before the Board of Adjustments. And it will also, we changed it from heavy industrial zoning to be permitted in the BD and HD zoning districts. Tattoo and body piercing establishments require the issuance of a special use permit.
I think it's a great idea.
One of the inquiries.
Sure.
So I wish I could be there in person so you could see I'm a little bit flat, but it's not quite clear to me how the tattoo and body piercings see to cross the go line, but the previous three don't. It sounds like maybe that we're trying to restrict it more than we have, or yeah. Could you explain a little bit better? Are we trying to restrict it?
We just want to have controls, period. We don't want it to be, I'm sorry, I'm shooting from the hip here, but the Wild West when it comes to tattoos and body piercing. If we have implemented controls such as requiring special use permits, then that is the standard. And also, it's not any more restrictive. In fact, it gives more lenience because it is now offered in 2 different zoning districts, which are in greater area in Southport than what the previous heavy industrial zoning district.
Yeah, well, so are we considering more lenient to be virtue, or do we prefer to be less lenient? Or it catch me up on that. I'm actually, if there's backstory back to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great question that I don't know how to answer. I would say, I wouldn't put it in terms of more lenient as being more of a virtue and vice versa. I would just say that where the market fits for tattoo and body piercing would be in these appropriate zoning districts. Now, the board is more than welcome to amend that to limit it to 1 zoning district, or to say we don't want to put a special use permit requirement.
Mr. Chair, comment to the other board member. Doug, I actually think this has foresight. When we're looking for revenue, even though I'm not a fan and will die without a tattoo unless they come and force me to get one, I think it goes with the order of the people who are moving. We're looking at affordability of housing. If you look around, our residents have tattoos. It's on all likelihood. I like the idea that it's already identified. I just came back from Las Vegas. They have them in the casinos. You can walk in and get your tattoo while you're gambling away your money, right? So for me, which is kind of crazy in like my own mind, but the reality is I agree with the concept of having some controls and some identification, because there will be new business entrepreneurs who may want to come to Southport over the next 10 years or 20 years.
So, for instance, right now we have a gentleman who wants to put in a tattoo parlor, and there's no zoning for him.
You're just saying hypothetically.
Hypothetically. So his only recourse in this hypothetical situation is to get a special use permit for businesses, commercial or otherwise not listed.
And it can go anywhere.
And it can go anywhere, exactly. It can go to any zoning district at that point, assuming that the Board of Adjustment were of mind to allow that. This puts some confines on that scenario by allowing it in just business district and the highway commercial zoning district. And it still requires that there's a special use permit associated with the approval of a tattoo parlor. And the Board of Adjustment also are of mind to be able to apply conditions to that situation if they're associated with special use permit.
So, yeah, as a volunteer, we need to recommend reincorporation or to not like we have for the last, I guess, 3 minutes, not recommend reincorporation. Is that kind of the choices here? But I'm appreciating what you're saying. To say, yeah, if we recommend reincorporation, we can do good diligence to regulate it. Is it also, is there an opportunity to not reincorporate it?
Well, I think the key word is what Maria said, is foresight. If you've got it controlled and people know where it can go and how it can go, it's better than having a board, and boards change, determine where it could go, which is this way. I think, without rules, there's chaos, and this could be one of those chaotic ones where, having it established in our UDO makes much more sense than not having it established. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that's helpful. Sure, thank you.
Yep.
I do know with interest that Maria's anecdotal story came from Las Vegas, where there's gambling.
I took a picture of it. I was so amazed.
So good. Yeah, thank you very much for the time.
And I'll add to Maria's story that I'm also retired Navy and I don't have a single tattoo. So we'll talk offline.
Yeah, removed.
No.
I'll look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep rolling.
So our last,
Quickly, does anybody take a break? Oh, we're good. Good. Okay, keep rolling. Thank you.
the last land use that we incorporated, ground mounted flagpoles. Where permitted, flagpoles shall be subject to the following conditions. Flagpoles may be allowed within both residential and commercial zoning districts, subject to the issuance of the sign permits. At no time shall a flagpole exceed 20 feet in height. Flagpoles shall be set back from all primary structures and property lines at 1.5 times the length of the pole. A 20-foot flagpole will be required to be no closer than 30 feet.
Thank you.
It's a tech, originally it said 45, and I changed everything because we had maxed out flagpole height at 30 feet. And 1.5 times the 30 is 45. I changed everything except for 45, so I apologize.
Fair enough. Thank you.
But it's at 30 feet. Residential zoning districts. At no time may commercial flags be flown in a residential zoning district. 2, wall-mounted flagpoles that are less than 5 feet in length do not require permitting. That is the summation of our text amendment here. Let me see.
Is that 5 feet too short? What's a flag
Oh,
pole on a house?
wall-mounted?
Yeah, I think it's 6 feet. I don't know.
It's 5 feet.
I have one on my house. I have no idea.
Yeah. 5. What's that?
Where you already talked about the flagpole.
The wall mounted ones.
Yeah, the ones that most people have torches listed. All the time, most of them are 5
Okay.
feet, and it's all dimensional because of the flag. It's one
Oh.
of the house.
Yep.
Most of them are 3.5 flags.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Well, this concludes my presentation. I can answer. Yes, sir.
One word, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, keep going.
To the comment, it says less than 5 feet. So if it's at 5 feet or 5.5, standard purchased wall-mounted flags should be, or however you want to put it, because we don't know the height today. Whatever that is, we need to check that. Because it says less than 5, and if I go home and I measure and it's taller than me, then I have to get a permit. I
It's
don't
the-
really want a permit.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I would just change that to 6 feet or less,
6 feet or less,
Yeah.
absolutely.
because I think that gives you. some-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I may, I just looked it up. The first one was the 6 foot.
6
So
foot.
just the first one, like,
So we can go
house
6
flag,
feet, 6 feet
yeah.
or less. Okay. Perfect.
Non-conforming flagpole.
I'm gonna get calculators.
Be able to with geometry.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Wendell. On the accessory structure. Is a playhouse an accessory structure?
A lighthouse,
A playhouse,
playhouse.
dollhouse.
So I would say, let me say this, we would classify the question as, is it land development or not? Are you disturbing the earth to build your playhouse? Then I would call that, in my professional opinion, an accessory structure. If it's one of those play school plastic playhouses, you just set it down and your kids can play on, then I would not call that an accessory structure. I would call that to like,
What about a greenhouse?
if you're disturbing the earth, that's an accessory structure.
What if you're not disturbing the area?
You're just setting it on.
You putting on footers?
No.
No.
I think,
So for example, you may see somebody with a tent that's a makeshift greenhouse.
then I think we could safely say that's not an accessory structure, but that, now I'm speculating. That's something that I would have to look into with a little bit more research.
Because I did ask the question, and the general response was that, yes, that's actually an accessory structure.
I guess I would need a building permit.
It's not. But if you're doing a footing and that kind of thing, then that would be a structure.
Absolutely. So essentially, if it needs a footing, that means it's gonna need to be inspected, which means it's gonna need a building permits. And we would classify that as an accessory structure, especially if it's accessory to the primary structure.
So we just saying that if somebody puts in a small playhouse that's 5 by 5 and sits it on blocks, that's an accessory dwelling, accessory
So
structure.
that's like, no, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
There's a provision in the UDO that stipulates, I forget what the square footage is. It's something like that, the 5 by 5
Okay.
or less,
All right.
does not require building permits.
All right.
But that's really for like those, types of well covers that you see, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things that hide, like,
Irrigation.
utility equipment, yeah, irrigation,
Yeah.
things like that.
Good question. Any others? Brian? Yeah. Doug on the phone. Any questions?
No, not, thank you.
All right. John? Paul? Kevin? All right, great. All right, so, and I don't have any questions. Nice job on it. This has been a long road on this one. Everybody on the planning board will get a chance to sit on one of these UDO text amendment committees. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of meetings, but it really exposes you to a lot of good questions, well thought out questions, and even listening to the board tonight, I can see that anybody being a member of one of those would just be an enhancement. But we will all take turns. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval for DTA 2504 UDO updates and recommend it to the board of Alderman for approval.
So moved.
Okay, motion been made. Do I have a second? Bob, second. Any further discussion?
Director Meehan has.
Yep.
I want to make sure that the motion includes the amendments that were made, so we clarify.
With the condition that the amendments be changed, right, as brought up. Okay, and I'll have that as a motion. Sorry, you got that. Okay. All right, motion been made and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Who was the second?
I was.
Okay.
What was the second? And it was unanimous. And including those on the phone as well. Okay, nice work, everybody. Hey, Wendell, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, board.
I'll read the statement of consistency And the City of Southport, ZTA 25-04, Statement of Consistency and Recommendation. The City of Southport Planning Board hereby recommends adoption of the proposed zoning text amendment by the Board of Aldermen and finds that it is consistent with the city's 2014 Hammock Fall Land Use Plan, originally adopted November 13th, 2014, and subsequently amended by the Southport Board of Aldermen. More specifically, policy 7.22, the city shall continually maintain all official planning documents. Good. Thank you very much. Nice work. That's a long meeting, but we're getting it.
Thanks, Tori.
Requires any municipality or jurisdiction that is enforcing a zoning ordinance must have an up-to-date land use plan. And also the Coastal Area Management Act requires all municipalities and counties and municipalities that choose in the 20 coastal counties must have a DCM 7B land use plan certified land use plan. So this will meet both of those statutory requirements. Our planning efforts began, you can go ahead and change in 2023, in late 2023, when we got our Stewart consultants came on board with us. And in January of 2024, we started collecting our existing conditions and getting ready for our community outreach, which would include public meetings, services, surveys, getting our existing plans together and looking and setting up a website for this. So the comprehensive plan is a long-range road map for the future of the city. This is a big picture document. This is not going to be giving you on-the-ground types of projects per se, but it's what's going to be guiding the future development or redevelopment of the city. So this is a very important document, and it does include a lot of community engagement, stakeholders, and we make sure that we try to get as much input as possible from the community itself. So really the implementation is really when we get to the project specific. So right now we're at the point we're trying to get this adopted so we can get some new things started, look at the future and use our guiding force here. So what I have here is one of the starting points is our vision. Like I said, this is a big picture. So in one sentence, I would say that the vision is that Southport is a historic coastal town that is focused on the protection of the character of its built environment and the preservation of its natural environment. And also I want to point out in this vision on this slide, part of our community outreach, we also had a photo contest. So these photos that are featured here were winners of our photo contest. I wanted to make sure that they were included. And we were asking for the different photos to show what you feel Southport is. So that's how we chose those. Next slide, please. So this slide has several different things that if you'll look at the pyramid, like I said, this is a big picture. So we're looking at the vision, which is going to be working down to the goals and recommendations and actions. So the goals are going to be used to build our future land use map. And our future land use map is a pictorial depiction of the desires of the city. So it's going to be looking at things that aren't specific to zoning. It's going to be looking at the uses, patterns, development patterns that we want,
But, and it'll be used then to look at decisions for zoning changes, for certain developments that may be coming in. And our future land use map that we have for this comprehensive plan includes the former ETJ areas, and we have some land that goes out further up to 11 and out 87. That is in the sense that we hopefully can have some compatibility and consistency and use this with our partners with Brunswick County at some point. While we were in the public outreaches, we heard a lot of the same things kind of coming up over and over, which is where our goals, our plan goals were written from these. They want, a lot of people were wanting to support existing small businesses and create opportunities to attract diverse small-scale establishments. They want to preserve the historic character of the city, including the site and buildings, the protection of natural resources and water quality. They want to have a diverse and affordable housing options. They want a pedestrian safety and connectivity came up over and over. So that's one thing we're going to be working with. And we've got a multimodal land or transportation plan in the works right now. So that's going to be helpful with that. And this will help establish some of those recommendations as well. Stormwater management and design elements for non-residential development and redevelopment. So those are some of the themes that kept coming up, and that's where a lot of the goals and recommendations came from. So I would just kind of leave it at that. I just want to say that this is a big picture. We've been working on this for several years. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. So we did send this plan to DCM. We have to have state comments. So Division of Coastal Management, we sent it to them. They did their review in the spring. We got it back in, I believe, late May. So they gave us some comments. We did not have any comments from the division. They really just wanted us to make sure that it was apparent in the plan that the policies that we have in the plan become enforceable policies when for state permitting. So any state permits, major CAMA permits, or anything that needs a consistency statement, the division planners would use our policy as regulatory if necessary. So they just wanted to make sure that that was in the plan. So we've added that, and that's taken care of. So just we do have to have a recommendation. The state statutes require that we have to have a recommendation from the planning board for adoption of the plan by the Board of Aldermen after a public hearing. So staff is recommending that you recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen for a public hearing and adoption of the leadership plan.
Open it to the board for any questions.
The board chair. I have some comments. I compared the February plan as well as the 2050 current plan, which was updated. I'd like to compliment the staff on updating the population growth, updating some of the statistics. The February one was kind of weak in those areas. And I can see that a lot of work went in from July until August. I have some areas where I'm a little bit concerned, and I realize that it's visionary, but in order to have effective vision, you usually have to have details. It seems to be less Office of Economic Development information in there, and most recently on social media, the interim city leader, Noah, has worked with some business development groups to get information in. My comment would be, I think we need to focus with the loss of the ETJ on economic development to some level, because the number of permits and remodeling and the items in which the city garners revenue are diminishing. People are here, they're established. And so without a budget or a focus in that area or a measurable goal, the city will then just raise taxes and raise taxes and raise taxes to the point that people won't live here. So my recommendation is that we encourage and include some of the work from NOAA and the business groups, along with some objectives in economic development. Another example is, I think, between historic preservation and affordability of housing, there are some conflicting comments. Historic preservation typically suggests that you're going to spend more money on maintaining and incorporating those historic homes. And yes, we have a lot of people who come here who want that. But we also have a number of comments from the Board of Aldermen, the Planning Board, and others regarding having affordability of housing. There are some disconnects with that vision where they don't align with one another. And so I would suggest that in the metrics and some of the actions that are laid out, that we either address it or we consider both. How housing works for historic preservation as well as affordability of housing related to that. I'm a big fan and have always been a big fan of, do we have future annexation on our mind? Is there a way to grow the revenue through some of these other developments along 87? And where are they on the planning schedule and the vision related to this 2050 plan? So that we can support infrastructure, ongoing paving. And are there any capital costs from the budgeting department that can routinely be placed in the 2050 plan? There should be some ballpark estimates so that when we're making our plan to serve our citizens, we have dollars and cents, at least in a global look-see. We know we have X number of houses, we're getting this amount of tax money, we're thinking about roads and infrastructure. That should already be identified, and that I didn't see that in either of the two plans with any kind of a goal, a global goal, that can't be specific. So those are, I also think that a positive is the tourism aspect. I looked also at the 2045 plan for Oak Island and I compared the two. We have the historic town, and as we think about planning and economic development, Main Street and Southport, whether it's Howe or Moore or both, are actually future areas of growth that should be looked at, because from a historic perspective, as well as a tourist perspective, those are areas where it might benefit all of the cities. So I like that, but I think we could have a few more details in those areas. But those are my comments. Sorry, there were so many.
No, they're really good comments. Thank you. Any questions? Bob? John? Kevin? Kevin, you're on mute. Why don't you hang up?
And to try to come up with more fiscal information. I don't see how we can be done. I agree with Brenda, affordability of housing has always been a concern in the last 5 years. And obviously with the increase in housing, Southport, especially historical stuff, Southport, the average person cannot afford. Townhouses built any road, and so the question's going to be, I don't think affordability of housing versus historical character. And what we have to do is look at what we have and see what's available. The build affordable housing, you can have the dream, but you have to find developers that are willing to do it. As far as there's been certain developers that have come in and said that got off the Katie Road, they're going to build certain number of more certain houses that they were going to be affordable. So I agree with the concept. I just don't see how you enact accuracy into a very basic comprehensive plan, which basically lays out goals. I think that's more for the portal and the planning to come up with policies and city management. Because a lot of cities have specific plans to deal with affordability of housing as part of the business group that the develops has been doing it, and it's been doing well with meeting local business and women. It's just trying to, okay, where are the locations within the city of Southport where you can build, and then do you approach any of the builders? So it's more of a pragmatic versus where's the proper place to put it. And I have to rely on both, because both is much more thoughtful about the intent purpose of the comprehensive camo plan. And I have to basically take a step back because the experience to say what is proper, how detailed should it be in the comprehensive camo plan. You have to rely on the professionals to get inputs that we can digest.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. All right, Doug?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just one inquiry. Are you intending that we take a vote on committee approval or otherwise this evening? Or
Yes.
did you-
Yes.
I understand, thanks. No further questions.
Are you concerned about approving it tonight?
I am, this is a nice piece of work, it honestly is. I just don't personally have enough background on it, and it may have something to do too with the direction the board gave to the subcommittee. Perhaps you gave them the authority to essentially act on behalf of the board. I'm assuming not, but we wouldn't be voting on it. I would just like more time to digest.
Yeah, there was a long, there was a steering committee. I sat on it, I think others may have, with members of the public. There was multiple public hearings. I think the Board of Aldermen have been involved. So, yeah, it wasn't a planning board subcommittee. It was really we had consultants in, they did all kinds of studies. We did walk around the neighborhoods, and it was it was a pretty robust, to put it very lightly, run through. And also the fact that staff has, like Maria mentioned, has kept up with it, even with the changing statistics, they've kept them up to date. Yeah, it's been pretty well vetted, but I will entertain any motions that anybody wants to make on it after we go around the table. Does that help, Doug?
Yes, it does. I'm a consumer of page 2, which is all people and also most just here's the timelines. Clearly, this hasn't been done in a corner or under a rock, and so I appreciate that. I maybe as a newcomer just feel under, not for lack of information, but it's lack of consumption of my part at this point.
It is a huge amount to digest. And then, and you know what, the work's not done. This is only, that's gonna be a question after I go around the table that I've got for Mo. Ed, questions?
I'm kind of in the same camp as Doug.
Okay.
I hadn't fully digested this. Like, for instance, we talked about multimodal transportation. Is that it, or is there double click on that in more detail underneath that?
When you say double click on that, because I get back to that.
Drill down.
When we open that up, what is that? Is there, it's just an idea, or is there actually?
No,
That we're gonna have buses, we're gonna have golf cart pathways, you know,
there's,
what is,
so there are going to be a lot of different things. So what we're working on, and with the planning department now with the multimodal plan, is really going to be more directed at pedestrian, biking, mixed, multi-use paths. It's not going to be mass transportation as you would think. This is more of a how to get people around safe and where are the missing pieces for these connectivities.
I just use that as an example.
No, I understand, but that's a good question because how far does this go?
Yeah.
And I know that there've been a lot of questions about how to get people around and to keep congestion down. So there's a lot of things that we can take from this. If we feel that is a priority that's beyond the biking and walking, then that's something that we can definitely take a look at as well, so.
I have a question related to the action matrix.
Mhm.
If this is approved tonight and approved by the Board of Aldermen, and I should direct it to you, the chair.
No, please, that's fine.
The action matrix, will it be updated and prioritized, and who does the prioritization? Because there are many, many action items. And even my questions and comments about things that I think could be added would grow into that action matrix once it's approved. So I'm not negative on the plan. I'm saying there are some items that I think need a little attention, right? Conditional. But how does the action matrix work and how are they prioritized? Who gets to do that?
So this action matrix lays out every policy and implementing action that is within the plan itself. So this is just kind of a cliff notes of the goals and policies and implementation strategies that are already in the plan. So staff will be taking, different staff, but the planning department is going to be taking the lead of making sure that things are happening, things are getting implemented. When things are getting changed, so we can update those. If we're seeing that something that is marked midterm is really more of a priority, we can change that to a short term, that's no problem. We do have to have monitoring by the Division of Host Management, so we do have to do a progress report every 2 years for them. So that'll be the basis of looking at that to make sure we're implementing our plan.
So do you, when I look at development services, parks and recreation, we looked at the budget last year and peeled it apart. Are there staffing / budgetary costs that are attributed to action items as well? Because that way, it's the only way you know if it can actually be obtained. And having been new here, I look at that and I see that we have lofty goals, but maybe not great implementation. And so in being responsible and potentially yelled at by residents, I would like to know how that works in advance.
It's an interesting point, and if I get add on to that, it's great to have all this comprehensive work done. But if the city doesn't provide the money to take it to the next steps, it doesn't do any of us any good to spend any time on it.
Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah. You're right.
A recommendation that we would consider partnering with the planning staffs, maybe a select group here. I got a lot of experience doing prioritization matrix. So we have, what's the impact this will have on the community? What's the cost? What's the amount of time? Maybe a few other variables. You throw that all in the mix, and what you want to aim at is high impact, low cost, short to deliver. And then you can start seeing results immediately. And that might be a pie in the sky example, but you get the idea that this will very quickly map out what can we do and really make it show progress in a measurable way for the community, most time efficient, cost effective way. Maybe they don't exist any of those actions here, but at least be worth
If
the
you
effort.
flush them out,
If you
see.
somehow prioritize those.
Yeah, I think that depends on the Board of Aldermen after, if we approve it, recommend it for approval tonight, I think, I think those are excellent points all the way around.
And I think that would be an opportunity for staff to keep that part of the update that we bring to you as part of this. I'm sorry. I know managing the next first. So that could be part of that, but taking care of that, so.
I like
Perfect.
it.
Yeah.
So with part of, if we were to have a motion to approve or not,
Recommend for approval.
can we have a condition that maybe there's some prioritization? And the one thing, add to that, prioritization, which should also have a funding component, right? So I think what we're saying is we want the alderman to look far enough ahead to make sure that they have a budget for what is achievable in that budget year or whatever. However far they want to look ahead, and if that's a missing component, maybe we would suggest that get added to the process, and the alderman can decide to do it or not, but.
They at least could look at the prioritization and what the potential cost is and make their own decision. And then we're just recommending, they have to make that decision, I would think, once it's approved.
Right, and it's just a reminder that you've got fun, if you find something that's, high priority, even low cost or low schedule impact, you still have to fund it.
Yes.
You can't have a funding discussion after the schedule opportunity.
To my point of capital costs are missing and some other things, right? You gotta figure those out somewhere along the line.
It's easy to say, it's a complicated process to introduce, but if that's,
Yeah, my thinking is that because we don't approve, we make a recommendation for approval. I think we're limited to just making a recommendation for approval as part of our motion. I think we can add on some add-ons, not as part of the motion, but separately saying that in order to make this work, you need to do these items.
Is that a conditional approval?
I don't think we can do a conditional approval. I think it's really, because the ultimate are the approving authority.
Oh,
Yeah, all we can do is make a recommendation for approval. So at the end of the day, we could put together this great big motion. And they'll even go, well, that's not what they're supposed to do. They're only supposed to make a,
Understood.
recommendation for approval. So, but we can certainly add on to that, and I think we should. So, Maria, any other questions, comments? Kevin, did I ask you already?
Yeah, I think you're all good points, but that's the debate with the existence of any local government is efficiency and effectiveness and execution. Yeah, it seems like we're always sort of being proactive. And I think that's what everyone's saying. It seems like you're always reactive. And nice, if there's something like we can say, we agree with this proposal as far as the plan. However, you need to develop a more detailed implementation and funding plan. I think that's what we're saying.
Yep.
That's something which is a good idea.
Okay.
make the CFO work if you have a CFO.
Yeah. Right.
I think, to your point, just looking for a recommendation as it is now, and it's just a vision for the city.
Okay. So with that being said, I don't have any questions. I think all these points are really good. I don't know how we would capture them into an added document, but I think you get our gist that when you present it to the alderman, that the planning board really wants an action plan with funding and with goals and deadlines and priorities. Yes,
I have a motion.
sure.
Just in hindsight, is there any way, would it be helpful to go back to the previous land use and see how successful that was? Based on the metrics we've done.
In the priority meeting, maybe.
I'm just thinking, Mike, that's such an interesting question, that when you had this
Well, we're
before,
talking about
did you
measurement.
pay, was it paid attention to, was it acted on? Because it doesn't go any good to have it's great to have this 50,000-foot view, but if you don't do anything with it, it's meaningless. That's really interesting. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
And?
It's
What'd you
about
find?
50/50.
Yeah?
Yeah, so that's part of the process when we started this plan. We sat down with consultants to look at what the action items were from the last update in 2010.
Yeah.
And then previous and now, so where we are now. And so they did use what we've done, what we haven't done, and then kind of see where we are, what we need to do, what's still missing, what did we do well, what didn't we do well that we still need.
And why,
Right,
you know,
right.
why it wasn't successful or why didn't it work? 50%.
Out of curiosity, what was the worst thing that didn't go well, or wasn't paid attention to, would you say?
I don't know.
I'm looking for the worst of the worst of that we should have done it, but we didn't, so now we're paying the
Here, I'm gonna
price.
help you. It's the sidewalks. How
Yeah.
many times have you heard the sidewalk complaint?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is the question. Here you go. All right. Yeah, I know, it's long. Long meeting. I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of adoption of the comprehensive plan by the Board of Aldermen. Motion. Okay, thank you. Motion been made. Do we have a second? Seconded. Motion been made, seconded. Any further discussion? Here and now.
Should the motion include that we will try to, add conditional comments for the board? No?
No, yeah, I think that, but we can certainly make a follow-up motion.
Okay.
Okay, so motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Here are none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Doug?
Mr. Chair, I abstain.
Okay, well, that counts as a yes. So the motion is, vote is unanimous.
Oh, I don't think he heard the explanation.
No, you didn't hear that?
Doug, if you need more time, an abstain is a yes. If you want to vote no, you have to vote no.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just gonna address that, Mr. Chair, if I might.
Yep.
Briefly.
Yep.
Yeah, unless we have a special rule, to the point that you just made, according to Robert's Rules of Orders, then the state is either yes or no, so it's a simple majority vote.
Yeah.
Do you have so if you have a majority, my abstention is neither yes or no. So it's a
Yeah, we have, Doug, we have a current rules of procedure that, with those rules of procedure, that if you abstain, that's kind of a yes. And that acts to make sure that you don't have a board that becomes a lame duck and doesn't take any votes on anything.
Well, it's not even for that, it's for the state.
Huh?
It's for the state. It's for.
From the state?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I no problem with that, Mr. Chair. And I abstain with great reluctance, so how that works out, according to my rules, is fine by me.
You know what, I'm glad that you voiced it. You know, it's, yeah, I don't want anything to ever be a slam dunk, so there we go. So how about a motion, we talked also, a follow-up motion on recommendations to the Board of Aldermen as part of this, which included priorities, included funding, included goal setting. We had a list, I think. And we want action on it, and we want to participate, and we want to make sure that it just doesn't get stuck into a filing cabinet.
Definitely want.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Originally, the comprehensive plan was supposed to be addressed by the planning board, correct? Or the UDO.
When you say addressed,
The committee that did this, that was like a special,
The steering
the
committee.
steering committee.
the steering committee by the aldermen did not want just the planning board to make up that document. So it spread it out to the public.
Yes.
So bullet items.
So what I captured and was just that you wanted to make sure that the Board of Aldermen knew that the planning board would like to have an action plan that was with funding. You could do prioritization of the,
Who sets the priorities? Board of Aldermen? Or is it the planning staff with work?
the priorities at this point are by our timeframe, so that, you know, when we look through, we look at what we feel can be done or needs to be done immediately.
Okay.
Then we look at that, and we know that there are some things that aren't going to be needed. It's going to be 10 years before we can get X done. So we know that we need to work towards that. Maybe we need to get some grant monies. Maybe we need to do some neighborhood planning or a corridor plan or charrette. But that's where we build upon that and make sure that as we're working through these implementing actions, that we are not only meeting the goals of the plan itself, but we're actually getting things on the ground.
Mr. Chair,
Please, go ahead.
I think Ed's definition of identifying which of the goals might be a priority is a way to recommend it, whether it come from the Board of Aldermen that they selected or that they give it back to us to identify priorities or some other group. I think you phrased it best in having some type of working group, because then it also helps the planning team and the staff, because if they're getting support to identify that, it may allow them to decide which budget items to go after or which grant items. I don't know where that falls, but I like the way that Ed had phrased it.
You want to phrase it again?
It's evaluating prioritization based on a multidimensional approach. Cost, impact, time, staff. I mean, there could be many other dimensions that we look at. Safety. And when you measure each of those independently, you throw it in the mix, you're going to get some kind of ranked order based on prioritization of all of those ingredients that you're considering.
Mo, is that something that planning staff once the plan gets approved, is that something you guys would do normally? Maybe not the funding part, would you make a list and say, this is the top 3 things we need to do?
Yeah, I think we absolutely will, and this is also gonna be where we start looking for grant money. So we start looking at what do we have low hanging we can do? Are there some text amendments? Are there some different things? What grant money is available? What can we go for? So we definitely are gonna have to do an annual, look at what we have, where we're going, and see where we can go from there.
Will we do a checks and balances on this so that, almost a, sense of where we are a year from now? I mean, can we do that as well to make sure that, same with us, that we're not skittering off somewhere without making sure that we're doing what we should be doing as well? You know what I mean? That a check-in. We should have a check-in on this. Yeah, once it's approved by the Board of Aldermen. So,
Clear about Joe?
yep, yep.
It's more direct. Well, we approve it tonight, and then when is the board more than likely then for their approval? In September or October?
October. I was gonna distribute the final plan to them for September and then have the public hearing in October.
October. Yeah, she said October, Kevin. Yeah.
So then, more to your point, and everyone else who's had great ideas on this, do you want to appoint, or do you want to appoint a committee of 2 or 3 to come up with that prioritization? And then have them go to the special session, or whatever it is, to handle this. Can that then be referred to the board before the October meeting?
I think that's true.
Yeah, I think that's trying to put conditions on it. Yeah. Good thought, though. I don't know that you can make a motion as an alternate. You know, to make a motion? I don't think so. Yeah, because you're not, yeah. So would you mind making that, the comment that I said as
Yes.
a motion?
Just a second, I wrote it down actually.
Just say what it said.
Just stay with it.
As a motion, yeah.
Yeah, thunder.
What's that?
Mhm.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I recommend, or I make a motion that an evaluation of cost, impact, time, staff, and potential safety be considered as a metrics upon approval by the Board of Aldermen.
It's really to guide the execution of this, in order to guide the execution of this plan.
We'll put that as part of the motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
All right, motion been made and second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On the phone, Kathy?
Aye.
Yeah, Doug, good. Yeah, Kevin? Aye. Yep, that's fine. Motion's unanimous. Thank you. It's an excellent meeting. I don't think they'll always be this long.
My husband just went out. Where is she now?
Planning updates. huh?
Yes, I can
How
make
you
this-
doing?
I can make
Okay.
So our update this evening, we don't have any new minor or any site plans submitted to staff right now, so just kind of keep you up to date with our non-residential and rezoning subdivision items right now. So right now, we don't have any development plan, staff text amendments, there may be a few small ones that come through after this larger one that we just completed. We got a majority of the requests that the Board of Aldermen and the staff had worked through last spring, as well as some of the other ones that the planning board brought up. And staff has been going through the UDO. There's still some that we have to wait on because of the downzoning bill, so that we don't trigger that. But it's hopefully that will be overturned. So, and that being said, legislature is adjourned at this moment at recess, so that they won't be coming back, I think, maybe next week. but we're not starting them next week or September is what I've heard. Just again, 2 meetings of note I would like to let you know about. The first one is tomorrow evening. There is going to be a special meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission. That is taking place here at the Indian Trail Meeting Hall at 4 p.m. And this meeting is specific to review the recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission has put together to recommend to the Board of Aldermen some updates to the local historic district design standards. So that's what's going to be discussed at that time. There is an updated version of the local design standards online. If you go to the civic clerk that has the agenda for all of the meetings, you will be able to find the historic preservation special meeting for the 22nd there. The agenda is there, the full agenda with the updated standards there. The next one of note is our Board of Adjustment meeting, which will be held next Tuesday, that's August 26th. And that's at 4:30 in the afternoon here at the Indian Trail Meeting Hall as well. The agenda for that meeting is a special use permit for a tattoo parlor.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. We weren't being facetious.
I thought you were. You mean to know. We talked about this in our Yu-Gi-Oh text.
I just.
Is there a location?
I'm sorry?
Is there a location determined?
Yes, the
For
location
the
is,
tattoo?
what, I'm sorry, it's some 107.
Off 8th Street.
Yes,
He said,
East State. It's in there's a commercial multi-use building right on the corner of Howe and 8th Street.
With the little yoga places.
It's across the street
and,
from there.
fancy places.
So the probation offices or the Tideland
I
survey.
wouldn't go with the
Okay. I see the sign when I'm driving.
Yeah, okay, sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's the scripts with the odd fonts on their signs.
So there's only one more, let me take it down. Yeah,
I can put it back up. I think I can.
okay, you can put it back up, because there is one other thing that I would like to, I have a QR code for the, like I mentioned earlier, that we're in the middle, starting of the Southeastern North Carolina Hazard Mitigation Plan, and there is an online survey. There's a QR code, I can email it to everyone, and we do have it on our website as well. And I'll make sure that it's up to current.
Mitigation, what?
It's a hazard mitigation
Oh,
plan,
okay.
and this is the regional plan, so this includes, Brunswick, Pender, oh, you're gonna make me, Onslow, New Hanover. I think I'm missing-
Carteret?
No, so it doesn't go up that far. Onslow is the most northern one, but it's definitely a regional plan. So we're going to be looking at issues that the communities have. What do we need to help become resilient? What is resiliency? To each city, each community is going to have a different definition or need. So we're going through those. So I think definitely, I think you should take a look at this survey. It asks questions like, have you been impacted by any natural disasters? Have you been impacted by any disaster? It doesn't have to be natural. Terrorist attacks. So there's a lot of things, and they want to kind of know and get a clue of where we are, what we need, and so they can help us get some strategies for resiliency in this. So that's my update for you this evening. Thank you. There it is.
I'm getting faster.
That's all right.
We're expecting it to be sent to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I was sent it, but for anyone in the public that has seen it, that I double checked it, it does work. So it'll take me right to the survey, and they will have it open through the end of August.
Okay.
No,
Yes, sir.
the last meeting I had a
Oh,
question.
yes, and I thought of it this morning. And then I got a couple phone calls and I got, so I will follow up with you.
The bridge and the.
Yes.
Thank you. Any legislative updates at all?
No, they're done right now, so I don't have anything.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I'd like to ask for a opinion from our legal representative. And I don't know if this goes to the lawyers. regarding the ability Southport to require performance bonds. Is there anything from a legal standpoint that prohibits that?
Can you explain more?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, because there aren't any provisions for performance bonds currently. And I believe that, well, I think the directive is there are no performance bond requirements. But as we get into stormwater, and it doesn't just apply to stormwater, but specifically the stormwater rules are the first chunk of regulations regarding stormwater and environmental protection. A big part of the stormwater is the maintenance for some of the larger EMPs. And it is pretty helpful to require performance bonds, which I think that's the intent, at least from the UDO committee.
Are we talking on developers that are putting in new developments for performance bonds?
Yes, yeah, not residential, but,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're building a large stormwater pond in a development that's going to take 10 years to be built out, halfway through the life of that construction, that pond is no good anymore. It's filled up with sediment or, just like you would like to have performance bonds on other elements of subdivision. Not having performance requirements has proven to be a large detriment in stormwater management. So the most effective stormwater management is where you have stick, right, to require that maintenance be done.
I only asked the question because in my world, performance bonds are for all contractors, right?
Well,
If you fail, if you're a maintenance contractor mowing the grass and you fail to show up, you don't get paid, right? There are performance issues. And so I appreciate that. I think that's interesting.
So we have an interest in, specifically in stormwater to attach performance bonds. But as you mentioned, it's beneficial for a lot of areas.
Paving, I think of what happened to the House Street, 2 years ago? When it got dug up and it took forever to get
Well,
it.
that was DOT.
But
You can also have the development where, and I saw it happen in the town I lived in. They did the base coat, never came back with the top coat. They left. And so, but we had performance bonds and we were able to exercise it to finish. So Laura, did you hear the gist of that?
Yes.
Really for legal advice on what it would take to implement
I know,
performance
yeah.
bonds for developments. Is that a motion?
Is that what we need to do?
Yep.
Chairman?
Yep.
Yeah, on that, John, that was discussed with, Tom Z, because at one time, the history is, I think, Southport had performance bonds. And then I think after the Cade Code fiasco, they no longer require. So, time's right. It boggles my mind. That they have enough today that report that how can you allow projects to occur without response, to have financial recourse? So I'm all in favor of what you're doing. I think it's a great idea.
John's made the motion. Do we have a second?
I don't think we need a motion for that. I think it's just a recommendation if I'm not.
No, I want a motion. I want to make it official last. Yeah. Yeah, so motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made. Second, any further discussion? You're not all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, supported. Doug, you okay with that?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There's a lot of history about performance bonds and so what if you need a little bit of, happy to talk to you offline. So, rolling through the rest of this,
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Can you just restate what the motion exactly was?
yep, the motion is to ask council, what it would, basically, what are the procedures for, putting together performance or requiring performance bonds in the city of Southport. There, all right.
Yeah, are there any prohibitions to require
Yeah.
performance bonds?
And would like that back in writing.
Yes.
This call is no longer being recorded.
Kevin, you still on?
I'm still here.
Okay. It just
Oh,
came up to,
he's on voice.
oh, he's on voice now.
Somebody's on voice now.
Oh, God, that's gonna be a long message. All right, rolling along. So we mentioned earlier also about rules of procedure, and it's really it's the Robert's Rules of Order. What do you do? When do you do it? How do you do it? We have rules of procedure on the city website, under the planning board. I think they're last dated 2010. We have ways to do this with our UDO. We have ways that also direct us in our city ordinance about the planning board. But I think it's time after 15 years to probably update those rules of procedure. And so looking for a special meeting to meet, and just before I forget, we are not meeting, there will not be a regular meeting in September. Okay, so this will be a special meeting instead. So you've got a series of dates, either Tuesday 9/2, Wednesday 9/3, Thursday 9/4, or Tuesday 9/30, Wednesday 10/1, Thursday 10/2. So I'd like to try to have all the members there if we can. If not, we will figure it out. It's a pleasure. Anybody have any brothers?
The only one I could eliminate for me is Thursday 9/4.
Okay.
Be available?
Okay, not a bit.
Not a,
Okay,
that's the only one.
I'd prefer earlier in the month rather than chopping up the month.
okay. Thinking how about Wednesday 9/3? Everybody, can we do that?
The second half of the day,
How about,
The second one?
second half of the day.
Yeah, so if we did 9 to 12, you'd be all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody all right with 9/3, 9 to 12? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Okay. All right, Doug, you all right with that?
I wasn't quite sure the best, I can support any of those times of days except for the morning session on the 2nd of October.
Okay, yeah, we'll just, we'll do, hopefully we'll be able to roll through this, and if we set up another meeting, we'll have more dates out there. Kevin, you all right with Wednesday 9/3?
Yes.
Okay, super.
Where would that be? Here?
Yes, here, right?
Yes.
And just remember, special meetings are televised, so, so that will make sure we line up, and Tori's very skilled at getting it televised now. Right, say that again.
Did you choose Wednesday the 3rd of college?
I said Wednesday, 3rd, 9 to 12, yeah.
They're televised.
Yeah, and I said Tori's got this on the hand now, so.
Shocking.
Yeah, so. All right, thank you. The other calendar that you have in here is just really nothing more than, and it's really more than anything. It's just to start setting some dates. I want to make sure that when the public comes into us and, folks have said, well, we don't do things when we're supposed to do them. This just really provides a calendar for when somebody comes in with an application, if they do it by X date, they can reasonably expect that everything is ready to have. So if you look at, they come in on Friday, by Friday, 12/5, they can expect that they'll meet with us on Thursday, 1:15. If everything is, passes through TRC if it needs to, or any other adjustments and things like that. It's really just putting something out for the public. There's nothing official as far as I'm concerned, really up to the planning department more than anything on whether they can do this. But I think we need this kind of schedule out there on the website so that people know this is how it works. Okay. Any thoughts, quick thoughts? And it certainly can add to it as well, and it's all dependent on the Board of Aldermen too. If we can get them to go along with the schedule, that means we can hold on to a certain time as well, so that if somebody comes in January, they know by March, they're gonna have this approved or whatever they need to do by the Board of Aldermen. Okay. It's really just taking what we've already done and putting it into writing, I guess, if you will, so.
are all of those dates and approvals within the UDO? Like the TRC, I learned, is 30 days from submission.
Yep.
When it coordinates. If they're already there, then it's just building a matrix out of the existing
Yeah.
UDO.
Yeah, so it's really, this is just a draft, right? So it's making sure that now, once we do this, it's up to the staff to make sure that these dates actually work legally. Bless you, yeah, thank you. That you're right. If you do it on 12/5, if you got 30 days, then 12/17 is not 30 days from TRC date. You do have up to 30 days, but they can do it as early as 2 weeks.
They could,
They could, if everything was all.
but I think that some of it's just extrapolated from the UDO. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then lastly, next to lastly, goal setting, give some thoughts to what we want to do as well as a board. Things that you might have happen in your life in Southport or elsewhere that you look at our UDO and different zoning ordinances and what have you, that have impacted you or seen impact the public, either negative or positive, whether it's for affordable housing or whether it's for something to do with commercial businesses. You all have experienced different, communities. So I'm just looking at that. We should start looking at setting some goals in October for things that we'd like to achieve as a board itself, outside of all the other stuff that we have to do. I'm talking about things that we can do while we're working on the comprehensive plan and things like that. So just come prepared. So we'll have to remember to put that on the agenda. Then lastly, I want to ask the 3 new members if they would do this. And the reason I'm asking the 3 new members is I'm looking to put together some type of planning board handbook. If you go out we've had training, so our training lasted about an hour. We have staff that we can depend upon, but I'm one that I really am a big believer in institutional knowledge. This board has had 17 members over the past couple of years, so there's no continuity in processes and things like that. Thank God we have staff that helps move us along, but if you're like me, I like to know what I'm supposed to do and when I'm supposed to do it and how I'm supposed to do it. Well, the rules of procedure will tell you how to do it. Having some type of a handbook which could be used for training for new members, I think would be beneficial. And so I'm not looking at a low level, more of a flow chart, timelines, things that you have to do. It's really taking that whole UDO or state law and boiling it down into something that you can look at and say, if we're doing a major site plan, these are the things you need to do. If you need doing minor site plan, doesn't come before us. Text amendment, zoning map amendment, things like that. So if the 3 members that are new, the reason why I'm saying the new members is because I think we've had enough experience now. We've been on 8 months. I know it's still new, but I just think you guys have so many questions that I think having the newest members do it would be really beneficial for all those kinds of questions.
Yeah, make a point on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I couldn't go through the entire UDO. So I used my friend ChatGPT.
Yeah, sure.
I said, could you summarize this?
Yeah.
Salient points. And at the end, it would say, you want a flow chart for that too? And I did that. I think that would really enhance the UDO. I'm not for expanding it, but there is I'll say Cliff Notes version that you could do to get really what the meat of what's being said there.
Sure.
I'm not saying the content is not needed.
Yeah.
It's in there, but it's a bit overwhelming. You're trying to.
Yeah.
So I can digest 50 pages instead of 300. I think that's kind of what this did. So to your point, I say yes. That's a great thing.
I did something similar. What I did was I looked at the 2014 CAMA plan and the 2050 draft, and I compared it to the UDO with ChatGPT, and I asked where the misalignments were, what was missing. And it helped me. My only comment to new people, if we ever have new people or people want to take a fresh perspective, is that I needed a way to put everything in perspective. And to me, the importance and the reason that my comments might be very picky for the 2050 plan, even though I see improvement from February, is that I see that as the overarching strategy and vision. And then I want to know how the UDO lines up with the overarching vision, because that's what we're tasked to do as a planning board member, is to look into the future. And so I compared those. I looked at all of them. I looked at what was in conflict. To me, you can't have laws and orders. You can't follow you can't follow two bosses, and you can't follow unlawful orders We were both in the Navy, if you guys didn't know that. So as a result, to me, that's kind of how I got myself oriented. And then I used this month's agenda and it was hefty. And I compared all the elements and went through the UDO and the written format to see where everything was. It was a lot of work to be prepared for today.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt that way or not.
Doug, thoughts?
Yeah, boy, sign me up, and I'll just observe also now, after the chat GPT comments by Maria, I now understand why they seem so much smarter than I.
That's not necessarily true, but okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, using ChatGPT does wonders when you compare documents and things like that. Really, yeah, you can create summaries and tables, everything else you need in there. Yeah. Okay, so we three be willing to do that?
Sure.
Why don't we set a target of maybe the end of Q1 26 or sooner? That way at least we have a date. So I'm looking at end of March 26.
Okay.
You can do it earlier. If you can do it later, it's up to you. But I think, and out of it, eventually, there's no reason we couldn't create some slides. You know? So-
Point of order, 3 people can meet.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yep, you can. It's not a quorum, so it's a working committee.
Okay.
Yeah, so you shouldn't have any problem and you guys run off and do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. Just sort of work with staff and be cognizant of their availability and time. Yeah, they're, as you know, pretty busy, and I think in my view, I think they're shorthanded. They could use more people, just saying that. So anytime you're looking for recommendations, give them more people. They are gonna be even busier, I think, with Waterway and some of these other projects.
My tax scholar just cried, but okay.
Yeah, well, I get it, but I'm watching, people are wearing 2 hats, 3 hats, 4 hats.
They are.
And it's really difficult, so. All right, the announcement is there'll not be a regular meeting in September. Let me go around the table really quick. Doug, you first, then, actually, let me go to staff first. Staff, anything? Tori, anything for us?
Will never happen again.
By the way, Tori will work. Okay, let me put it different. Tori likes peanut M&Ms.
Yes, I do.
So if you ever, happen to go by Walmart and see one of those really big mega bags.
Family size.
Family size, like, oh, yeah,
And I do share.
yeah, there you go. Wendell, anything for us?
Yes,
Okay, Doug, anything on the phone?
Great to be part of the team. I just want to express my number one respect and admiration for what I have seen on the long range plan. And just great stuff, and also my personal enthusiasm for the effort. So looking forward to see that thing develop and support and full up.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. Ed?
Nothing?
Great.
Nothing.
Kevin?
Sure.
Yep.
The only thing is, it comes out, as you know, in our July meeting, there was discussion about certain things that we have not done or failed to do, and it was asked that certain documentation be provided within 30 days to substantiate some of the
Comments?
criticisms of the board. Yes, and to date, no documents have been received, so that has not any further comment. And I just want to let you know that just no documents have been received or the contact has been made by any representative.
Okay.
So, and it's a good idea also when you plan on the committee or executive discuss the past. So it's good to see that now that we have a new board, especially such an energetic and obviously bright board that account will go force and effect. So I'm looking forward to their involvement and their achievements.
Yeah, I would just say, in my opinion, we're just standing on the shoulders of prior board members. Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of work done ahead of us. We've got a lot of work ahead of ourselves as well, and I think we've got a good board to do it, so. Is that it, Kevin?
Thanks so much.
Thank you. John? Anything?
I will be out of town for the October.
Okay. Will you be able to dial in?
Unlikely.
Okay.
I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Unlikely.
Sure. Well,
All set, thank you.
Mr. Alderman, anything for us tonight?
Obvious that a great deal of thought and a great deal of effort was put in. You guys came in, you've done a tremendous amount of research. This is one of the better meetings that I've ever sat in on. There's a great deal of discussion, a lot of thought, talking about Chat GPT. Alderman Spencer's gonna have to sit down, he'll be in tears. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense. It will do a lot of things for you. And you guys did a tremendous job tonight. It was a pleasure just sitting back here and listening to you talk. I mean, it's a lot of work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Without anything else before us, I don't have any closing comments other than to say thank everybody. A lot of hard work. We did a massive agenda. We got a lot done. We've got a great team. I think we've got a lot of work ahead of us, and I think this is the right team to do it. So, that being said, thank you, everybody. Meeting is adjourned, and good night, Southport.
This call will be recorded.
Thanks, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.